Hey, what's up? It's Cute What If this side. Today we will be seeing, what if Deku started dating Nejire? Now before we move ahead with the fic, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for future what ifs like this. We love the night for a reason. Whether it be civilians, criminals, heroes, or villains, they all have some form of fondness for the night for what it provides them, covering for their scandals. We all have scandals we participate in, they may vary in degree, but everyone has something they don't want anyone to be able to see and know about. What better solution to that problem than using the natural shade the night provides to do those activities? Sometimes people want to be able to act out to deal with their struggling lives without instantly getting repercussions. The obvious ones are the ones wanting to commit crime. Others may be a hero wanting to enjoy their time off without being hassled by the press and fans. And some need the night to hide their love affairs. In the living area of the UA dorm, a small group of students consisting of Izuku, Kirishima, Kaminari, Tetsu, Kendo, Mina, Setsuna, Bakugo, Shiro, and Jirou had gathered together to play a couple of card games. It was surprisingly a peaceful night, well, as peaceful as a gathering can get with some of the most rowdy students in the entire hero course. As time passed, the night drew on and before they knew it, it was close to midnight. "I think I'm done for the night," Izuku Midoriya announced with a stretch, standing up from his seat. "You're leaving already?" asked Himinori. "Yeah, it's getting late and I'm exhausted from my training today." "Come on, you can stay for one more game. It's the weekend anyway, so we don't have school tomorrow." "Now let him go," exclaimed Bakugo, who was aggressively shuffling the cards. "It's just one less person to beat." That was when Jirou interjected with, "You haven't even won once yet." "That's because this beach keeps cheating," the blonde yelled, pointing at the green-haired woman. Setsuna shrugged as she lifted her hands innocently in the air to supposedly show that she had nothing up her sleeve. "I don't have the darnest idea of what he is talking about. I'm doing no such thing. I guess I'm just extremely lucky to always beat you." She spoke calmly, but she had a devious smile across her face, proudly displaying her smugness. "Leer," Bakugo yelled, pointing at her again but this time directly at her hair. "Your hair is covering the right side of your face. You're using your quirk to send your right eye around to see my cards, aren't you?" The brunette gave a sham of a gasp, looking like she felt offended by the accusation. "I can't believe that you would accuse me of partaking in such a devilish deed. My eye is still here, see," she tells him, lifting up her hair to show that she had both eyes. "Can a robust woman change her hairstyle once in a while? You really know nothing about girls, dear Bakugo." "They're at it again," Kirishima sighed. "Sorry bro, she's so persuasive in letting her come along and I don't know how she keeps finding out about these get-togethers. I think she literally got ears all over," Tetsu states. Shiro stretches as well, adding, "I just don't get why it matters who wins anyways, not like much of this matters." "I guess that's why Jirou sticks to her phone the entire time." "Yup," was all the punk rock girl said. She continued to text on her phone, not paying attention to the ramblings taking place. Out of the corner of Jirou's eye, she spotted Izuku, taking advantage of the distraction to flee to his room. With nighttime being all but a perfect excuse, we never know what the people close to us do when they leave our sight. What do they do alone, how they spend their nights before going to bed, and what are they hiding from others? After Izuku entered his room, he closed the door behind him and made sure to have locked it. Strangely, he did not turn on the lights, leaving the moon as his only source to brighten his room. He spent a couple of minutes cleaning his room the best he can. It was difficult to maneuver in the dark around his vast collection of All Might merchandise, but he managed to get it presentable enough where he wouldn't feel embarrassed about having company over. Speaking of company, tap tap tap. The tapping of the window caught his attention. A small smile appeared on the young teen's face. "She's here. Tap, tap tap tap. Tap, tap 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 tappity. Gah." The boy panicked at the sudden rapid noise and quickly rushed over. Why does she gotta be so impatient? Someone might hear her. Quickly opening the window, Izuku was about to lecture his visitor about the danger but was cut off before he began when a figure swiftly flew into the room and knocked him flat onto his back, causing even more noise. The figure stopped its flight and softly landed on the ground. It slowly walked over to the laid-out boy till her feet were right by his head and squatted down, allowing the moonlight to reveal his late-night visitor was no other than Nejire Hado. Her lovely periwinkle hair was wrapped around her light pink nightgown like an elegant scarf. It was done so that she could stand out less whenever she flew over, but it felt like he was being visited by a majestic flying maiden. "Izuku, you're too loud," she whispers, holding a finger to her plush lips. "Someone might hear. You were the one making all the noise," was what Izuku wanted to shout, but he was smart and kept it in, not wanting to cause any more ruckus than they already had. It's useless to argue over this. Whatever I say to her about this now would probably flow in one ear and out the other anyways. She's so spontaneous at times, she'll probably change topic before I even finish. "By the way, your room is a lot cleaner than I last remembered. You tidy up the place." "You did a real great job," Nejire pointed out as she looked around the room. She had instantly stopped whispering, defeating her prior statement about being quiet by talking in her normal voice. She then continued her streak of extemporic actions by giving him a kiss on the forehead, also high. Somehow, through the tinted shadows that surrounded the room, her smile was as illuminated as ever. "I can't get mad at her, I just gotta pray these walls are thick." Finally getting himself off the ground, Izuku replied, "Yes, I did. After you pointed out how cluttered it felt in here, I thought to clear it out a bit." "Oh, you didn't have to do that for me," Nejire told him with a warm smile, being flattered for a mere second before her mind went off somewhere again. "So what are we doing tonight? Cards, games, puzzles." "Cards? Well, I was thinking we can." Oh, I got an idea." The next thing the Izuku knew, he was being dragged toward his bed. Being the very hormonal teen that he was, when a gorgeous girl comes to his room late at night and starts leading him to a bed, he's going to get some lewd thoughts. Fortunately, Nejire's mind was too in the clouds to even see the gutter Izuku's mind was in. Her plans were instead spending the next hour snuggling on the bed, with Nejire laying her back against Izuku's chest so the two could watch videos off her phone. She had wrapped her twisty hair around the both of them so it wouldn't get in the way and they could feel comfortable being so close together. It was astonishing that the usually hyperactive beauty could conjure such a peaceful couple activity, where despite doing nothing but making comments about the videos they watch, they felt closer than ever. Hey, Izuku. Why is glass usually green? Is that its natural color? If it is, then how do we get different colors of glass? Shouldn't they all be transparent? Ain't it strange but amazing that we were able to turn that stuff into mirrors that reflect things almost perfectly? Nejire asked after seeing a clip of the pro hero. Cow lady, fight against a villain with the ability to create glass. Talk about a bad matchup. Well, that's because most glass is made with iron oxide. While it's thin, you won't notice color. The green really starts to show once it gets thicker because of all the impurity iron oxide cause, Izuku answered, answering only the main subject of her tirade. Wow, how did you know that? Is it because that's the secret of your hair? Is your hair made of glass? How do you keep it from breaking? Wait, no, that doesn't make sense. But could your hair have that iron oxide thingy? It's iron oxide and no, my hair doesn't have that. It's just genetics. Also, you remember those fruity melon drinks I was obsessed with a few months ago? Yeah, they got really popular by getting multiple heroes to sponsor different flavors. There was Present Mike's Lemons, Endeavor's Code Red, Wild Cat Blend. Oh, and my favorite was Maruko's White Surprise. They all had little fun facts on each bottle cap that I ended up reading. Now my mind is filled with trivia facts. And I'm just now finding out about this. You shouldn't say that earlier, we could have had so many interesting conversations. Would you have remembered any of them? He didn't see a point in talking to her about mackerel just to have her forget it next week. I would've, you're mean keeping all the fun stuff to yourself. She scolded him, looking back at him with a pout that was supposed to show that she was aggrieved at him but ended up being too adorable to take seriously. At this point of their relationship, Izuku had gained enough confidence to wrap his arms around the brunette's waist, pressing their bodies together to the point where they might as well be one being if their clothes weren't still on. He can feel their body heat fusing, warming them up to the point where they didn't need a blanket to deal with the chilly breeze of nighttime. The feeling of her stomach slightly expanding and contracting with each breath she took sparked an instinctual intimacy in the boy. "I'm sorry, I'll share next time I find out something interesting," he whispered in her ear, hoping it'll cheer her up and get her to be quiet again. He felt her shoulders quiver before she quickly turned away, a sign that it worked as she only mumbled, "You better, or else I won't forgive you." I know. During these movements, Izuku learns a lot more of the settled things about Nejire that most won't notice as they only see her more active side. For one, despite how long and fast she can speak, her breathing almost never becomes ragged because of it, nor does her heart rate fluctuate. What kind of outrageous stamina does she have to achieve that feat is as mysterious to how One for All functions. She also loved it when he breathed on her neck, once stating how his breath prickled her skin in just the right way. Another thing was that she had a weak spot, two in fact that have vastly different effects on her. Just touching her left rib cage in the right way, specifically the rib second from the bottom, will send her into a giggling fit. Izuku made sure to never make that mistake again after a wandering hand accidentally brushed against it when they were making out in secret. She laughed so hard that it exposed their hiding location and he barely managed to make an alibi to explain the situation. The other spot will be something he saves for later, for those extra special moments that need a little bit of a push to get things moving. It may be her sleepiness from how late it was that made her so cutely calm, but he'll be a liar if he said he didn't love this side of her as well. He wanted more. It was moments when she's like this that he could explore her more, and she knew it as well. Mostly because Izuku had a habit of his that gives it away. "Izuku," Nejire says looking back at him with her sparkling eyes, "you're rubbing my leg again. That means you want to do it again tonight, right?" Izuku stopped moving his right hand, apologizing. "Sorry, my mind wandered too much in my..." "No, it's okay," Nejire replied, putting her phone down. "I can feel you getting harder and was about to ask anyways." Causing the boy's face to go red at his own weakness, the brunette giggled at how flustered he looked before planting a kiss on his lips. Their lips parted for a fragment of a second before reconnecting again, this time with more passion than before. The savory taste of the other's tongue was too addicting for either of them to pull away from, like a spell casted was over them that invigorated their actions. The young woman led her lover's hands to her chest, guiding them and massaging it through the fluffy fabric. She knew that wouldn't be enough to satisfy her boyfriend's desire, swiftly unbuttoning the top 4 buttons of her nightgown, freeing them up for Izuku to pull out her well-endowed cest to play with. His scarred hands delicately navigated around her milky white curves, getting a tight grip on each melon and shifting her breasts around with a light but ever-increasing aggression. Through their canoodle, Nejire would constantly moan from her special treatment, barely able to keep up her end of the tongue feud. Becoming more playful, the Emerald Hair Boy began playing with her, using his favorite technique to use on her. A few weeks ago, after accidentally busting up his right hand, again, he was left with scars on the interiors of his palm. To his later benefits, his scars spread to his thumb, pinky, and middle finger, his kingly 3. Using them whenever he plays with her when he really wants to vitalize her, rubbing her sensitive area with the thicker texture of his scarred skin gave her a special kind of sensation that made her quiver. It was like a tonic to her. The contrast of the rough skin against her soft, smooth one made for an unexpected godly combination. Each was comparable to a toothbrush grazing against her tit, and she loved it. She'll squirm, it would make her drool if it went on long enough, and if it wasn't for the fact that he was constantly muffling down her mons with their kiss, she would have woken up the entire floor. MMMPHM. Izuku. She was trying to speak, but the pleasure was getting to her, pushing out the ability to speak straight out of her mind and pulling in nothing but hazy lust. She started grinding her hip, her toes curled, and her lower lips tingled. Only by mustering up the strength she usually needed to fight a villain to take him by surprise, by pinching his side, which turned out to be one of his weak spots, so she could push him down onto the bed. By the time Izuku recovered from her sneak attack, he felt the bottom of his shirt being pulled up to his neck. He looks down just in time to see his girlfriend plop down onto his stomach, her still bare-gifted breast squishing against the top of his abdomen. If his pride and joy wasn't prepared to stand straight before, it was definitely ready to stand at attention now. Nejire, Izuku muttered, still stunned from her actions. It's not fun if you get to do everything, she replies, her endearing smile only matched by the beaming glow in her blue eyes. You know how I can't stand being stagnant for too long. She shuffled around to make herself more comfortable in her position, which to Izuku felt like she was trying to wash his body with her bubs. Once she was settled, she jollily flicked his ass as she spoke to him. That's why I like to experiment. Sticking out her tongue, she licked his, causing the boy to twitch. You liked it? Good, because this is fun. She continued to tease him, licking around his in a circular motion and coating it in her saliva before pulling off with a kiss. No wonder you're so obsessed with bubs. This is fun. Nejire, not so luau. Not listening, Nejire continued to plant 2 more kisses before getting up once again. Okay, I'm bored, let's get to the fun part already, she told him. Hell, Izuku accidentally shouted, but he caught himself before he went through with his mistake. Hopefully his doormates will at worst take his outburst as him stumming his toe. I thought we were supposed to be quiet. Nejire scolded him. Calming himself down, Izuku said, Sorry, it's just, you just started. And I got bored, that's what experimenting is for, she told him, straddling his waist. You see what new things you can try out, and if they don't work out, just get to the good stuff. Her hips grinding against his made his groin want to burst out of his pants, and something on a similar scale was happening to the maiden as well. They were sharing everything in this moment, their breathing synced. They felt the other's heartbeat, and they both wanted to get out of their clothes. That night they shared was one of passion and lust, self-pleasuring and unity, spontaneous actions but united as one motion. An enjoyable night for both of them, one of the many they've shared. The next morning Izuku was awakened with a kiss to his cheek. Someone then said something. Thanks for the night, I'll text you when I get back. It was obviously Nejire, preparing to leave before anyone at her dorm noticed her absence. A few minutes after she left, Izuku heard a knock at his door. Izuku looked at his phone. It was almost 10 a.m. His body was a bit sore, but he had to answer the door. He's known as a sorta early bird, and he didn't want anyone to be suspicious about why he would be too tired to open a door. He would just keep whoever at bay at the door. After getting himself presentable, he opened the door. He was surprised of all the people that Jirou was there. He was about to greet, but before he could speak, Jirou pushed him back into the room before entering herself and closing the door behind her. Jirou. Izuku stammered. In a mere second the petite girl muscled her way through all of his prepared defense systems, and now he could be in trouble. Whatever you're smelling is just the musk of this new cologne I brought. Jirou cut him out. SHH. Look, I know you're FC King. Izuku wasn't ready for this to be his morning. That statement hit him so hard mentally that his brain shut down and had to reboot, leaving standing there, frozen, unemoting, and catatonic. When he was finally able to speak again, he tried to play it cool. What? Ha, I don't know who you think I would. That busty third-year airhead. FCK, was the thought that ran through his mind. How are you so sure it was Nejire? 1. I used my quirk to hear your heartbeat. I can tell you're lying when it rose. 2. I never said Nejire or even mentioned something particular to her, so you kinda just ratted yourself out. Oh my god, did I really fall for that trap? Izuku stated, questioning his own intelligence. Yeah, you really fell victim to one of the classic blunders, Jirou told him before quickly getting them back onto why she's here. But listen, I'm not here to just expose your relationship or whatever. You're not. No, that's stupid, annoying, and just nosy. Then why are you here? Well, you managed to hide it for so long. You obviously have experience in maintaining a relationship like that. And Izuku squeaked. He wasn't sure where she was going with this. There's this senior, and we like each other, but we can't let anyone find out about it, so. Can you please teach me, how do you date a senior in secret? Izuku really wasn't ready for this morning. What? Izuku said, not sure if he heard Jirou's right. Just teach me and my BB boy. Jirou stuttered, seemingly having a hard time getting the simple word boyfriend out of her mouth. My friend. How you two make your relationship work out the way you do. Even Izuku raised an eyebrow at this. He was a complete stammering mess when he first dated Nejire. But he could at least say the word girlfriend in a conversation if he committed to it. After enough attempts, of course. Only after a little push did he start to get more comfortable with it. But that's a story for another day. Then his mind snapped back to the more important issues being presented to him. Someone just discovered my secret relationship with Nejire, which turned out to be my classmate Jirou, who found out through some method she has yet to tell and is also dating someone older than her, who now wants me to teach her how to keep a secret relationship secret after she just exposed my own. You're throwing a lot of information at once that I need time to process. It's not that hard to understand. By the sound of you two last night, you guys have been at it for a while to the point of comfortable familiarity. Just show me how you keep it secret but effective. That's the thing, I'm currently contempting how good we were actually concealing it. Now isn't the time to think about your volume control. See, stuff like that. How do you know? Jirou hushed him, reminding him of the fact that he had neighbors and explaining why she was there in the morning would bring a lot of suspicion. Can we skip that part? No, it's getting creepy how much specific details you're getting right about last night. Well, you see. As Jirou tried to speak, her face progressively turned more red. She couldn't maintain eye contact anymore, diverting her sight to the side and trying her best to not show how flustered she was becoming. Flustered she was, for her cheeks turned red and she began playing with her earphone jacks, poking the metal tips against each other while continuing to speak. I used my quirk to ahem. Listen. In. Jirou quickly moved to silence Izuku again, clapping her hands over his mouth. Seriously, dude, work on your volume control. Calmly pulling Jirou's hand off of his mouth, he asks, for how long? What? How long did you listen in on us? A while. Define a while. After staying silent for a bit, Jirou diverted her sight again as she muttered, before you got started. Till after it became clear what you two were doing and a bit after. You heard us having s. Yes, you don't have to say it. Jirou hissed at him. Why did you listen for that long? Izuku asked. The crimson on his face was beginning to match hers. You could have confirmed whatever suspicion you had after the first couple of seconds. I wanted to, but it was so enticing to listen to. The boy's mind was in a jumble from what he was hearing. He had to be dreaming, as this was in no way reality. He was a few seconds away from running his head through a wall to wake himself up. It was her Mons. She sounded like she was getting it good. I don't even know what to respond with. I'm stuck between flattered and creeped out. Izuku mumbled. Flabbergasted was an understatement to what he was feeling. The best he can take from this was that he got confirmation his girlfriend wasn't faking it. That's one insecurity he didn't need to deal with. Well, you asked. Jirou reminded him, making sure he didn't forget that being told this part was his idea to begin with. When one asks for honesty, they gotta be prepared for what that honesty can entail. I think this left me with even more questions. Are you kidding me? Like what? Actually, no, don't. Like, what were you doing the entire time you were listening in? What was I doing? Like, were you throwing jacks? Throwing jacks, right? That only applies to boys. What the hell are you talking about? What does playing with toys have to do with the conversation? Give me a minute. Now confused more than ever due to her innocence, Jirou crossed her arms as she waited for the broccoli-haired teen to figure out a way to foot around a word. Hypocrisy exists within everyone. After a quick Google search, he got a few, finger painting, visiting the safety deposit box. The punk rock girl shook her head, showing she still had no idea what he was implying. Just take in the situation and stop me when one of them finally hits you. Auditioning the finger puppets, womansplaining yourself, getting lost in the deep end, fanning the fur, playing the piano, jillin' off. To help her, Izuku began doing a few gestures with his hand to give her a hint. As Jirou pondered over the information of the situation, her eyes began slightly widening. Checking the undercarriage, dialing the rotary phone, paddling the pink canoe, pet the bunny. Oh my god, Jirou shouted, covering her face, but that couldn't stop showing how her entire body turned red. What is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? You did what you did. Izuku snapped back. I'm just making sure there's not a puddle outside my doorway before someone sees AHHH. As Izuku was finishing his sentence, Jirou couldn't take the eroticism of the conversation, and decided to end it abruptly by doing her signature thing of shoving her earphone jack into someone's ear, causing the hero in training to hit the ground with a thud and roll around in excruciating pain. Are you an idiot? Like I'll be so shameless. Jirou yelled, looking at him. Volume was no longer a concern for either of them. Not that they were good at it anyways. Knock, knock, knock. A knocking at the door, now panic can ensue. FCK, FCK, FCK. Jirou muttered under her breath, biting the nail on her thumb. With his experience, Izuku immediately told Jirou to get under his desk and not make a sound. This wasn't his first time dealing with an unexpected guest when he had a female friend over. He rearranged his room, switching the position of his bed and desk, making it so that no one could see under his desk from the doorway. It was his go-to spot to hide Nejire in. He even brought a desk skirt for extra coverage in case someone pulled what Jirou did and barged into his room. As soon as Jirou was out of sight, Izuku opened the door to greet his visitor. Are you okay? Asked Izuku's classmate Takoyami. I was walking by and heard a bunch of noise coming from your room. Yes I am, Izuku calmly told him. He bent down to rub his foot as he explained. I had my phone on playing videos while doing a few light workouts. You know how it is, autoplay eventually took me to this weird drama show. I got distracted and rammed my foot against the bed frame. Sorry about the noise. I hope you didn't break your foot. Aizawa might literally kill you if he found out you injured yourself outside of training. Yeah, I know, I'm just going to sit down for a while as the pain subsides. Thanks for checking up on me, Izuku told his classmate, uttering one last comment before closing the door. Sorry again for the noise. Sigh. Another save. You can come out now, the boy said, looking back to his room. When the punk rocker crawled out from under his desk, he noticed she had a peculiar object in hand. A bra, lingerie to be more specific. The black fabric of the base was complemented with a well-designed pink lace, giving it that erotic theme, and the endowed breast that it was meant to contain eclipsed her hands as she held each pad in her palms. It was something Jirou could never wear. The sheer size of it intimidated her for a variety of reasons. That was the reason she looked down at it with such animosity. Let me guess, Nejire's, she said with a gravelly voice, giving him a disdainful look. Swiftly snatching it out of her hand, Izuku flusteredly answered, yes. I'm not surprised you keep souvenirs of your secret escapades. She left it behind when she had to leave in a hurry. I keep reminding her to take it back, but she always forgets. Of course, big-breasted bimbos are the type you reserved people chase after. And no, I don't pay attention to that stuff. You sure? 'Cause you're often distracted whenever you talk to Momo in her hero costume. That's different. As different as your quirk is to All Mights, the punk rock girl replied, not holding back on being snarky. Don't worry, this is actually a good thing. If your relationship with Bluebo ever falls out, you can date her, though she's smart so she might not be exactly your type, but at least it's more accepted. You're acting quite cruel to the person you're asking help from, Izuku told her in a more serious tone. He seemed to have stopped taking the jabs lightly when they crudely turned toward his girlfriend. Seeing the steely look in his eyes strike Jirou, realizing she might have taken her snarkiness a bit too, and went to quickly apologize. Sorry, I'm just stressed, she told him, hurriedly taking out his phone and fiddling with it before showing it to Izuku. A few weeks ago I was texting him and this happened. Start reading the conversation from his post. Izuku complied despite still being annoyed from her earlier comments. The least he can do is see if this situation was actually important before deciding if he wanted to help. He looked at the first message he saw and read it out loud. I want to kiss your pretty little duckies, he read in a befuddled voice. Not that one. A panicked Jirou squealed, quickly pulling the phone and the suggestive message out. What did he mean by duckies? Are those your pets? And no, don't worry about it, he was just being stupid and horny. Also, I get wanting to hide who you're texting in case something comes up from behind. But of all names, why do you have him under flirtatious Mr. T? That's making it obvious that you're texting some love interest. I had to make it cute at the time, don't ask. I'm actually still hung up about the duckies thing. What was that about being horny? I said don't ask. Here, Jirou stated, shoving the phone back in his face. Grabbing her hand and moving it so that the phone will be in a more comfortable position, Izuku began reading the messages. Again, this time internally. Flirtatious Mr. T, 9:11 p.m. Hey, you busy? Jirou, 9:18 p.m. No, I'm just playing cards with my classmates. Flirtatious Mr. T, 9:19 p.m. Never mind, you're having fun with friends. Jirou, 9:22 p.m. Nah, having fun is the least I'm doing. There's just a bunch of pointless screaming going on about the dumb game. Jirou, 9:22 p.m. What's the matter, boo? Flirtatious Mr. T, 9:23 p.m. I think we should end this thing we're doing. Jirou, 9:25 p.m. What? Jirou, 9:25 p.m. Why? Jirou, 9:26 p.m. We didn't move too fast. We only did heavy petting. Flirtatious Mr. T, 9:28 p.m. I don't think we can make this work. We're already barely seeing each other because we're busy with our hero course. The free time we do have is usually spent apart since we can't meet in public. And when we do get together, we're often interrupted before long. It's to the point where we spend more time sneaking around to see each other than actually seeing one another. It's just a lot of risk for both of us to keep this up when we can't each other's company. Flirtatious Mr. T, 9:28 p.m. We should probably break cups before this whole thing makes us turn bitter against each other or become destructive to our lives. Flirtatious Mr. T, 9:29 p.m. Break ducks. Flirtatious Mr. T, 9:29 p.m. Soup. Flirtatious Mr. T, 9:29 p.m. FCK. Flirtatious Mr. T, 9:29 p.m. Up. Jirou, 9:30 p.m. This is why I said get your autocorrect fix. I'm upset but can't stop laughing. Jirou, 9:30 p.m. How did ducks and soup get involved? Flirtatious Mr. T, 9:30 p.m. I don't know. What kind of phone does he have? Izuku mumbled out loud. Hearing this gave Jirou the implications of where he currently was, lowering her phone so she could explain the rest. The rest is just me convincing him to give us time to figure things out and him not being sure. Luckily I've got him to hold off on the whole thing, at least until we spend some time looking for solutions to our little problems. Till then we're on break. The punk rocker was sure to use air quotes on that phrase, rolling her eyes with annoyance before plumping herself onto Izuku's bed. With a sigh she made one last comment. Which leads to this situation. I needed help and sought you out because I had hard suspicions of what you were doing but wanted to confirm it first before asking. You shouldn't. Sit there, warned Izuku. Why? Jirou asked, resting a hand under her head to keep it up and pouting over her current predicament. I mean me and Nejire we did a lot of stuff on there and I haven't even aired out the room yet so you're just sitting all over our essence-soaked sheets. Thanks for reminding me what I'm not getting. Sorry, it just seems so unsanitary. Are you going to help me or not? Jirou shouted, tired of the banter. Okay, I'll help out but, really, cheered Jirou without waiting for him to finish. A rare bright smile appeared on her as she hopped off the bed. For a moment she looked like a grader schooler when their parents finally bought them candy at the cash register. I owe you for this, whatever you want. Not literally though, I've read enough to know what kind of rabbit hole that can lead to. What kind of things do you read? Izuku thought to himself before stating, the issue is that it's kinda hard for me to explain most of what me and Nejire do, at least without leaving it too vague to the point where you're at risk of exposing yourself. It took a lot of trial and error for us to get it down and there's a lot of factors you can't prepare for. I don't want to give advice that'll only work for us because of how we are that'll leave you guys in a situation that'll get you caught. What do we do then? Jirou asked, her enthusiasm was quickly halted for a moment. The best way for you two to learn and increment it into your relationship is probably to see it for yourself in action to get all the little details, Izuku explained. You want us to have a double date? Actually, I was thinking about constructing a several-part video series for us to watch, and I'll coach you through all the questions you might have threw out, but your idea works a lot better. Okay, Jirou says with a clap, so when we doing this and how? I'll need to talk to Nejire first, since visually we'll look like a regular group. It shouldn't be a problem getting things arranged. I just need to know when you and your secret boyfriend will both be available so I can match it with mine and Nejire's schedules. That'll be easy, I'll send a text to him right now. With the resolution and promise made, the two walked out of Izuku's room, chatting in a low but casual volume as they walked down the hallway. Dude, you don't have to walk out with me, not like I was an actual guest of yours. Yeah, but you're a friend, and all friends are a guest to my home. At the right time. Also, I needed something to do while I air out my room. You just can't stop yourself from bringing up the action you got last night with your blue-haired sweetheart while I'm here touch-starved from my relationship, commented Jirou, taunting him while giving a judgmental side-eye. Boys, at least take a shower after. That reminds me, are you ever going to tell me who this secret tea guy is? Nope, gonna have to wait because at least I'm capable of keeping what I do on the down low so no one see me coming, like how I discovered your little love affair. She gave him a little nudge on his arm, both as a friendly gesture while also a tease at keeping him guessing. What? You still trying to find out? Tamaki, how did you know? Like waha, where the FCK, FD Sajstv. With a single word, Izuku fried her brain. Nejire always said he might end up doing that, but not to a different girl and definitely not vocally. Well, him being a male third year, in the hero course, and T thing, which I took stood for his name, drastically narrowed it down. How many third-year hero students whose names start with a T do you think we have? The entire hero course only accepts like 40-ish people a year. But I could have been dating any third year from a university whose hero course doesn't allow relationships. The fact that you have so much difficulty meeting up in public would mean that, for one, you both go to UA since you're trying to get around UA's rule about dating upperclassmen and dating within the same course, and you two knew if anyone from either of your schools saw you guys together, they would instantly know you two were secretly dating because there was no other explanation, and you didn't have a good excuse to tell. You two have similar hair color, you could have easily passed it off as being siblings or cousins or something beside hero students of different years. No one would know or be able to tell unless they knew both of you personally, which wouldn't be possible unless you both went to the same school. How smart are you? That was so much information gained from very little hints. I can't take all the credit. Nejire noticed Tamaki was looking extra depressed recently and even said she thought she saw him around our dorm one time when she was sneaking in. That's probably at least what started your suspicions. Everything else came from logic from me and Nejire's relationship. Plus bottle caps were really useful. Bottle caps. Why? You wouldn't get it. Fine, you caught me through your mysterious nerdy ways, Ace Detective Midoriya. It's not a bad thing, if anything I'm happy it's him. He's a great guy and I think you two will be great with each other. A streak of pink blush came across Jirou's face when Izuku said that. Gotta be whatever, dude. I'm just happy I get to keep him. I think he's an alright person. Yeah, I can tell. You made things a lot longer and more complicated over him. He must have meant something if you took the worst possible way of asking for help ever just to keep being with him. Hey, I wasn't thinking smart alright. I was too stressed and nervous about approaching you and your thing. I just decided to go in and see what happens. I'm just lucky I can say I don't regret it. Well, both the students stopped dead when from around the corner, Aoyama appeared, carrying a plate of cheese and crackers. That was most likely going to be his pre-lunch snack. They all stood quietly, eyeing one another. The pair was worried if they spoke too loud and the sparkling maybe French classmate might have overheard. Aoyama stared at both of them, a bit confused why they were here as he never saw them as people who'll hang out casually with each other. Then a certain scent invaded his nose. He did a few visibly obvious sniffs to examine it. It was musky but also strangely enticing. Any French person would know what it meant. He eyed Izuku first. With his eloquent nose, he knew the smell was radiating off of him like nuclear waste. Mainly around his genitals, the culprit. He then quickly swapped his gaze at Jirou. She had the musk around her as well, but it was so thin that he would even miss it if he didn't stop himself to examine Izuku's odor. It puzzled him how disconnected it was considering they both had the same musk, but he was sure of his conclusion because of one fact. Jirou's lower region also had a strong imprint of that smell, most specifically from her back to especially her ass. The accomplice in the method. Seeing as this was the floor where Izuku's room is located, that was the crime scene. Not to mention the most damning evidence, Jirou's own words. Hey, I wasn't thinking smart alright. I was too stressed and nervous about approaching you and your thing. I just decided to go in and see what happens. I'm just lucky I can say I don't regret it. The blonde's first reaction to this revelation was to raise an eyebrow at the fact of these two personalities being the ones to do this. Regardless, he found it wasn't his position or reason to judge or interfere. His only gripe was the sloppiness of it all. Walking past them, he mumbled a few words of ill-delivered advice. I can understand the passion of youth, but you gotta learn how to keep it all contained. Can't let that stuff reek out like that. I'm not one to judge, but I'm sure you less Amaru don't want others to know how you go about it like wild beasts. Now it was their time to be confused. The hell was he on about? The most I got out of it was that something reeked and something else about wild beast. Jirou asked, tilting her head in confusion. I swear I never got that guy. Izuku was the first to point out, if his French lessons are correct, less Amaru means lovers. Lovers? What does that have to do with smells? And they both stopped with their eyes widen, connecting all the parts and how Aoyama sniffed. Does he think we? Izuku shuddered, unable to finish the sentence from how flustered the realization made him. How Jirou was about to yell but stopped herself again. Why does he think I was involved? I don't even smell. Unless I. Without a second to lose, Jirou pressed a hand against the back fabric of her shorts before sniffing it. She had her answer, now she wanted to die because of it. She made a grand old mistake many have done. The floodgates of lewd thought had poured into her mind and nothing can be done to prevent it. Her years of mental envisioning through sound backstabbed her today, as it fused with her little listen-in from last night to give very vivid images. Her body was completely red again as she shrieked in an unusually girlish voice, "Oh my god." Watching her, Izuku caught on as well. The best he could say was, I did warn you not to sit on my bed. Oh my god. On the bright side, it doesn't seem like he has any intention to ever mention it to anyone, Izuku stated, trying to assure her not to freak out and faint. He thinks we went at it like beast. D-doggy style. Jirou hissed, but her voice cracked, making her remark squeaky. She couldn't calm down no matter what was said. In her shame, she placed her hands behind her as if it'll help stop the erotic smell from coming off her backside. Having others know you have sex is one thing, but it becomes all the more worst when they can get an idea of what kind you do. So, Imago, take a shower, you go and change your pants. Actually change your whole outfit just to be safe, okay. Wook, text you later, Izuku suggested before rushing back to his room to get his bathing supplies. Seeing as the smell would mainly be coming from him, he thought it was best to go their separate ways for now. A still traumatized and shocked Jirou didn't answer. She just walked off with the aim to get to her room with as little embarrassment as possible. The worst part about everything that just happened was how aroused she felt from the naughty thoughts. If the absorbent properties of her panties weren't there, there might have been a few drops of woman juice on the floor. She's going to need a shower, a long shower to get over this. Where are they? Grunted a frustrated Jirou. She'd been pacing around the garden located not far from the school. She was told they were going to meet it for a while, after getting there early as a show of courtesy toward her boyfriend, and the people helping them out. She was getting impatient waiting for their late arrivals. She was about to call them and see where the hell they were, but then she heard something from the bushes nearby. PSD. PSSSSD. Popping their head out from the bush, it was Tamaki, whose hair seemed to have a bunch of twigs and leaves stuck into them. He whispered to her, Hi. Hey, Jirou says back. Seeing him look so ridiculous lifted her mood and made a smile creep on her face. What are you doing in there? I guess you could call it hiding, Tamaki answered, his eyes trailing toward the ground when he saw that Jirou was starting to approaching him. People kept on staring at me weird when I was standing around by myself, as if I looked out of place here, so I tried blending myself in with plants around, but I ended up falling into one of the bushes. Then I kind of just stayed here when I realized I can avoid all the looks if no one can see me. That'll explain why your hair is such a mess, snickered Jirou. When she got close, she crouched down in front of him so they'd be close to eye level. She didn't know why she found so much humor seeing the older boy in that state. Maybe seeing him contradict his superficial reputation at the school is amusing. Or it's because almost anything can seem funny when it involves your boyfriend. Either way, it didn't matter. She had a fun mental image in her head. She didn't want to go away anytime soon. I wouldn't be surprised if a bird nested here. I knew it. My hair must look absolutely atrocious today, Tamaki murmured. Her tease instantly hit him hard, making his long-time anxiety issues pop back up. He hung his head in shame as an aura of depression surrounded him. No wonder people stared at me just for being here. I must look like a hoodlum to them, looking so out of place. No bird would lower their standards enough to choose my hair as their home. I wouldn't go that far, she told him, carefully plucking out all the things that got embedded in his hair. Birds aren't that picky. Moments like these amazed Jirou. She would have never thought she would have this kind of relationship in her life. Here she was, tending to her boyfriend's hair with delicacy equal to that of a hairdresser toward their prized loyal customer. From an outsider's perspective, this seems like a normal relationship between two youths, yet somehow there's a scandalous ambience whenever they're together in the same room. Unfortunately, the cause is their careers. If it wasn't for the fact that they both had decided to pursue being a hero, there wouldn't be a need for all this. They could just be another happy couple. With the government trying to keep the hero industry's image as a positive pillar for society, they need to let as little controversy as possible to happen among heroes that'll cause a negative outlook from citizens toward how heroes are. While minor small-time disputes between two heroes can actually be good for press as it'll get people more engaged, like when Mount Lady and Midnight argued on television. Anything that'll make citizens and especially the parents of students question the system's ethics is something they want to stomp out early. With how drama-stricken and ugly romantic relationships can get, especially among the immature youths, it would be a complete PR disaster. It's for that reason that every hero school has some extra rules about students in the hero course dating. The strictest of schools bans them outright for everyone with no exception. Most just ban relationships only for hero students. Others will allow hero students to date only if they're from people outside of their course or from another school, and very rarely do one allow two same-year hero students to date only under a multitude of conditions. While some schools are more understanding about the complicated mess of young love and will be a bit more lax about upholding their rules, the kind Jirou and Tamaki had would not be allowed anywhere. They really checked off all checkmates that'll piss off any school with their relationship. They were both in the hero course, at the same school, and they're in different years, the furthest they could be for that matter. If a teacher like Aizawa found out about them, he honest to God would question if they were trying to piss someone off by being together. Yet, despite all the red flags that showed how much trouble a relationship like this can cause for both of them, they still went for it. Ironically, unlike many scandalous relationships, this wasn't done out of spite, to make a statement, or just because they want a thrill. It just kinda happened one night. For a brief moment, Jirou thought back to when it all started. The words from that night echoed in her mind. "Oh sorry, did I walk in on something?" "No, you're fine, I wasn't doing anything important. Came out here for some fresh air." "You can call it that. What about you?" "Couldn't stand being in there for another moment. Too many people around. It was getting too hectic." "Then I guess we're in the same boat." "Yeah. You mind if I sit next to you for a moment?" "Why?" "I don't know, it just seems like you could use some company is all." "I'm fine, I'm used to being standoffish from others." Okay, I guess. I mean, you can still sit next to me. If you want, of course." "Sure. So you like deep dope." Who would have thought such an awkward meeting would sprout a relationship? For that reason alone she hasn't ever regretted going to that event. Dusting away the last remaining leaves from Tamaki's hair, Jirou states, "There, now your hair can serve as a nice hotel stay for any top-class bird." "You're mocking me, aren't you?" grumbled Tamaki, lifting his head a bit to look her in the face. His sharp indigo eyes, while having a somber look to them, were still able to give Jirou a stare that made her legs shiver in exhilaration. Thanks to his anxiety, he doesn't look people in the eyes often. Even as his girlfriend, Jirou had to deal with this problem often, but when he does it feels like magic. Answering him honestly, Jirou continued to smile as she said, "Just a little bit." Dropping his head back down in shame, he sighed. "I've fallen so low that even my juniors are making fun of me." "Hey, you shouldn't see me as just any junior," Jirou said, grabbing both sides of his head and lifting it to face her. "I'm something more to you, right? That should be obvious, you are my girlfriend after all," mumbled her older lover. A streak of pink appeared across his face as he did. For once, he had looked her straight in the eyes when he said that, and damn was it effective. While Tamaki's face only had a pink tint to it from saying that out loud, her own turned red just from hearing it. Her heart skipped a bit and she jerked back away from him because of the shock of hearing it. "She exclaimed, showing off again her lack of volume control. Her mouth hanged open as she tried forming words to no effect, exasperated from hearing such a thing. Off reflex she turned from a flustered mess to a shuddering still flustered rage. Why you gotta say something like tth thou that all the sudden? I thought that was something you wanted, said an astonished Tamaki. No, I mean ... yeah. I expected something flattering but not that. I am sorry. And no, don't apologize. It was just sudden, is all. Okay, I'll be more careful whenever I call you my girlfriend. You did it again, you just called me it again. Arg. Sorry, don't apologize for me being your GG girl. You know, I literally don't know what you want right now. I don't know. I guess a start would be coming out of there, suggested Jirou. While seeing him there was still humorously adorable. She was starting to feel ridiculous talking to a bush about being its girlfriend. Hesitant to be out in the open, Tamaki told her, but what if someone passes by and recognizes us? Your friends aren't here yet. It'll be fine, we're a bit deeper in the garden from the entrance. I'm still not sure, I am pretty tall. But it'll be pretty hard to distinguish specifically you among all these plants. Besides, you'll probably stick out less if they see you're with someone. That's the opposite of what I want. Sticking out less. No, being seen with you. Wow, no. I meant that someone might see me with someone and then just for the sake of gossip, will start a rumor about me dating someone. Then that rumor would circulate around and people would start speculating who I was with. Then after months of being secretly stalked, they'll put it together piece by piece that you're the one I'm meeting. Next thing we know, half the students know we're dating and Christ knows how long it'll take till that gets in the hands of a teacher. Then we might get expelled or worsened. What's happening right now is why they've been on the rocks lately. Paranoia and fear have taken a hold of their relationships, slowly strangling it to death. Both parties contribute to this roadblock. A majority of it is coming from Tamaki and his pessimistic thoughts of the worst possible scenario. It can be annoying at times, but Jirou couldn't fully blame him for his overly cautious attitude toward this. While Jirou is a part of the infamous Class 1A, that's about it in terms of expectations compared to any other hero course student. Contrast that with what Tamaki has on his shoulders, from his reputation of being in the top 3 best hero students UA has to offer, to maintaining the expectations everyone has for him, as well as being a soon-to-be graduate, and dealing with his future plans for his career as a hero. Stack that on top of him being the older participant of this relationship. If anything happens, then he'll have to take the most responsibility between the two, and the consequences can be detrimental. It'll be uncharacteristic if Tamaki wasn't a mental mess over the whole thing. Which is why Jirou tries her best to ease his nerves. How about you come out and we'll sit behind the bush? That way no one can see us unless they come to where we are, which would only be Midoriya and Nejire as they're the only people with a reason to be here, suggested Jirou. Tamaki spent a bit pondering over it before responding. That sounds fine. Finally the pointy-eared boy left his cover, settling himself on the ground. Jirou went over to try to join him, planning on sitting right next to him on the ground like the day they first interacted. Except, suddenly she felt a pair of hands wrap around her waist and yanked her down. For a moment, she wondered what had happened before realizing that her boyfriend had pulled her onto his lap. "T the hell?" Jirou asked, while she elbows his ribs a bit as punishment for grabbing her so suddenly. She made no effort to resist or escape his grip. Holding her tight, Tamaki said, "It's ... just been so long since I was able to hold you like this. I miss this feeling." The comment seemed to have petrified Jirou as she stopped thrashing about, becoming more calm and relaxing her body against his. She crossed her arm across her chest before talking to him as if he was a spoiled child. "Fine. You could have just asked regularly, you know, but I'll let it go this time since you seem so needy," she proclaimed as she contradictorily got herself comfortable on his lap, shifting her hips deeper between Tamaki's thighs. "Thank you," the sharp-eared boy replied, causing his girlfriend's blush to grow. That was when they just sat there, together in peace and enjoying the other's company, which was what they wanted all this time. All this damn trouble, just for this. It didn't matter if they went further than this, they had the rest of their entire lives for sec. They just wanted more moments like the one they're having. Peace, quiet, and each other. Eventually Tamaki did break the silence, asking, "Do you think they can really help us?" Midoriya and Nejire. Jirou questioned. "Yes. Well yeah, unless we magically convince a teacher to be on our side. They're our best shot after all. With their experience in this sort of thing, we can definitely use that to make this work. I know, it just seems ... like a lot to rely on your friend knowing what he's doing for this. Don't underestimate Midoriya. He may be young and a dork at times, but he can surprisingly be quite reliable when you need him. I wasn't there to see it myself, but hearing about what he did during the USJ incident, and what he went through when our training camp got invaded, he must be good at planning things on the spot if he managed to survive all of that. Besides, if he manages to keep a secret relationship with the chatterbox Nejire for so long, then he's doing something right." "You have a point. How did he manage to keep her silent about something like that? I honestly have no idea. Imagine my surprise when I found out how far it went. I thought at best it'll be some kitty fluffy encounter. ... Okay, I still don't know how to feel about you listening to the whole thing. You're not hiding any. Shut up. I had to see if they were just a fling or not. They were not. They're fully committed to their relationship despite what might happen to them. I only suggested we should break up for both our sakes. I know. So we wouldn't completely spoil our lives trying to maintain something we can't keep together right now. Not because I was so willing to just toss away what we had when things got hard. I get it. I would have still seen if we could make it work after you graduated, maybe even a little bit after I graduated. What's with the uncertainty? I don't know what my life will be like after graduating. There's a lot of work to do and it might not be the best idea to choose then to rekindle your troublesome relationship from school. Oh, so I'm troublesome now, states Jirou, giving a bit of extra attitude in her words. Her voice became more grouchy as she stared at him with a sharp glare, and there was a slight pout to her lips that showed that she meant business. Quick to realize his mistake, or find a fault in his actions depending on how you look at it, Tamaki quickly told her. Not you of course, I meant the nature of our relationship in general. You'll still be a student at a school with restrictions on who you can date, and I'll be a highly anticipated new hero on the scene that'll have to earn his name. It'll be messy starting a new relationship during that time. I would much rather wait till after we were both a bit stable and free in our lives before we get back together. Rolling her eyes, Jirou replied, whatever, I don't remember hearing all this get back together later stuff when you sent the text that we should break up. Tamaki began to panic as he felt Jirou's back stiffen and turn cold toward him. That's because I didn't want us to hold ourselves back in our lives in case we find someone else just because we made some promise we might not want to stick to later. Oh, so you just wanted a loophole so you wouldn't feel bad if you find some busty broad you want to FCK over me in those 2 years. Oh god, she went to that again, thought Tamaki, knowing where she was going. This wasn't the first time Jirou has gone this route with him in a conversation. It wasn't even close. A weakness about their relationship is how easy it can be for Jirou to get jealous. Her falling behind her mates in terms of endowment had caused a bit of bodily image issues in her self-consciousness. When it comes to these kinds of relationships at this stage of their lives, a great fear for the younger person is that the older one will lose interest in them for being immature and will leave them for someone more mature to their liking. The definition of what mature means in this context is up to one's interpretations. Basically, Jirou had an obvious embedded fear that Tamaki might leave her for someone more his age. It has only grown as the day of his graduation grew closer, and he'll be out free in the world to pursue whatever he wants. With his popularity as it currently was, it won't be long after leaving school that eyes of all kinds will start turning toward him. She worried if his will would hold out for a single petite girl still in school. Him also being good friends with the bombshell Nejire really didn't help. Good thing Midoriya closed that possibility. Now Jirou stand their relationship, as a supportive friend of course. To rectify the misunderstanding, Tamaki tried to tell her, that's not the reason I... No, I get it, interrupted Jirou, showing how she doesn't get it at all. I was the fallback plan in case you couldn't get any models with your fame. Where did models come into this? I don't know, let's ask that stash of yours under your bed. I'm holding it for a friend. Bullshit. What? It's Mirio's. That Tintin-looking motherfucker probably wouldn't blink if girls flashed their tits at him. I haven't seen that happen yet myself, but I know he has no mind of the vice versa. Suddenly Jirou's face turned red as she covered her face. Flinching from her abrupt scream, Tamaki looked down at her and asked, what? The image of Mirio naked popped in my mind again. Oh god, he's so beefy on soft. That was it. What do you mean that was it? Just surprised you'll bring it up now like it's that relevant. Maybe to you, probably became numb to it all. But I can't just forget seeing that thing swing around in the air. Arg. Like ... can that thing grow? It'll be a nightmare to any woman when he's hard. I don't even want to imagine it. Have mercy on our souls if he's a grower and not a shower. It'll be like a full stick of salami attached between a person's legs. I just realized you have an unhealthy habit of thinking about other people's sexual activity. Because I'm not getting any, mumbled Jirou under her breath. What? Nothing. You know I'm not clingy to you like this for your body, right? Wow. Yeah, I can tell seeing as you have those magazines. FCK. No, I meant if I just wanted a busty girlfriend I would have picked from one of my many options. Especially during Valentine's Day where I got a lot of confessors. You're losing me here, Jirou states. Her earjacks seemed to rise up dangerously close to his ear. Knowing his next words would determine whether or not he gets tinnitus, he chose them carefully saying, yet I refuse them all. Except for Nejire, who's just a close platonic friend by the way. I don't bother messing around with girls. The slittering jacks seemed to have lowered themselves at his words. Go on, Jirou calmly says, her back eased itself against him again. Sure, they can be physically attractive to look at, which is why I have those magazines to look at if I ever get an urge. He's trending dangerous water right now, so that I can focus on being around the people I truly care about. Was all a blushing, Jirou said. Her posture had gotten more timid. Home free. That's why I have you as my girlfriend, Tamaki says as he hugs her tighter from behind. You did it again, Jirou told him. Sorry. No. Say it again. You're my girlfriend. Again. You're my girlfriend. Jirou turned her head around to face him before demanding. One more time. Looking at her with his sharp indigo eyes, he tells her what she wants to hear. You are my girlfriend. Any message about if the others are coming? No. FCK it. Without a moment's delay, Jirou grabbed him and the two embraced the other in a long, passionate kiss. They've been away from each other for too long and it was all coming out here. They waited no time with the moment they had. They barely locked lips for a minute before they began undressing the other, undoing buttons, zippers, and lifting clothing so they can sneak their hands through the openings they made. They treated each other's bodies like ravaged customers during a Black Friday sale, grabbing everything they could get their hands on. It escalated when Tamaki's hand slipped down Jiru's shorts, fiddling with her private areas alone. All his tentacle hand training came to fruition here. Already pent up from the amount of sexual tension they had before, Jirou was instantly releasing small moaning from the stimulation. She squirmed in his lap, rubbing her backside against his growing manhood that's been waiting to run wild. It was right when she reached down to taunt it that Tamaki reminded her of something. "You got my message about the duckies, right?" "They're right here for you," Jirou answered with a smile, using her other hand to pull open up her shirt more. "Where?" "I love duckies, they're adorable to play with." For a moment both parties froze as they wondered which one of them had said that, only to realize it was neither and a third party had arrived. With dread they looked to see that Nejire was standing not far from them, looking down at them with a curious look of confusion. "I don't see any duckies, guys," the brunette innocently says. "Ahhh." Breaking apart from each other, they quickly went to cover themselves up. "What are you doing here?" Jirou screamed. Her face was now redder than a tomato. "We agreed to meet here, silly," Nejire happily told her. Suddenly Izuku came in saying, "Sorry for the long wait." Nejire wouldn't stop playing around in her room before getting dressed and then she got distracted by ahhh. The boy's calm explanations for his late arrival soon turned to a blushing scream when he saw what he walked into. "Why is your DCK out?" he yells, snapping his attention toward Jirou as he knew it most likely had something to do with her. Looking to her side, Jirou started blushing when she saw what he was referring to and scolded Tamaki, "Why is it still out? Put it away. It's harder putting it back in than taking it out when it's like this." Tamaki panically responded. He looked like he was about to die as he struggled putting the beast back in its cage. "I can help," Nejire suggested. "No," both Izuku and Jirou shouted. Izuku looked at her as if she was crazy and Jirou had more of a death glare than anything else. "What? It's just a friend helping out." This happened a lot with Izuku. "The trick is the angle you." "I got it." Tamaki cheered, almost triumphed before realizing what he just did publicly and self-banished himself into the corner. As everyone got themselves settled, no one said a word in an awkward moment of silence. "So was I interrupting something?" Nejire asked. No one answered her but they all gave her a look. "All right, are you guys ready for your SSRT?" Nejire cheered loudly, joyously pumping a fist into the air to hype up the crowd. "Nejire, we're in public," Izuku told her, scanning the edges of the garden to see if she drew anyone's attention. While he loved how energetic she is, he'll be a liar if he said he wishes that wasn't the case at times, mostly when her clamorous nature put their secret relationship in danger. "For our what's an SSRT?" Jirou asked, her face faintly scrunching up from confusion. With the same spunk she always had, Nejire told them the acronym. "Super, secret, relationship, training." Raising an eyebrow, Jirou asked, "Isn't it contradicting to call it secret if you say it out loud like that?" "No," replied Nejire, "because your relationship is something to be proud of, that's why it's super. But we're keeping it a secret," Jirou slowly says, not sure if she's following the logic or if the girl was crazy. "Yeah, because our school has that pesky rule about dating people in different grades," stated Nejire, giving a small pout as she thought about how unfair the rule was. "They go to the same school anyway, why stop free love? Doesn't that mean we should keep everything involving it on the down low as much as possible?" "Nope, and that's your first lesson," exclaimed Nejire. She did a little twirl as she floated in the air. "You're already on a dangerous dance floor. It'll be a waste to stand around and be miserable about it. Might as well dance a bit." Izuku came in to explain. "What she means is that you two are already doing something not allowed. While keeping it a secret is needed, you shouldn't take its secrecy to the point where neither of you can even enjoy being in the relationship. You should have some fun," Nejire told them. "But if we get caught, we could get in trouble," Jirou told them. This was the core of the entire issue. It's not like she and Tamaki couldn't spend time together, it's just that they couldn't find a preferable time to be together without risking getting caught. School time was a big no. After school is difficult considering Tamaki's internship, and at night will be difficult considering the night drones that wander around. Speaking of Tamaki, he was still depressed in the corner about the earlier mishap. "That's only if you get caught dating," stated Izuku. "There's nothing against knowing or being friends with seniors." Nejire added, "As long as you don't get carried away and get freaky as you did here. You two gave many ways to spend time with each other in broad daylight." The struggling couple's faces were both tinted with a red blush at the comment. They were one step away from their friends walking in on them doing the actual deed and they weren't sure whether that was a good or bad thing. On one side, they missed out on a good intimate moment and they now had to live with one hauntingly embarrassing memory. Tamaki is still emotionally scarred from the elephant having trouble concealing his trunk fiasco. On the other side, if they weren't interrupted, someone else could have walked by and caught them, especially if they were loud. All you need is just an excuse to be around each other, Izuku said. Some sort of activity or club you both can be in without raising any questions. What did you two do? Jirou asked, curious for ideas they can use. The greenet rubbed the back of his head, asking, you remember that time I was hospitalized fighting that porcupine villain? Jirou shivered as the memories flooded her mind. Ugh, yeah. Geez dude, your arms got turned into Swiss cheese after. Yeah, well that was where things start. This has to be some cruel joke, right? That's what Izuku thought as he stared at the tray of food in front of him. The nurse who brought it to him had forgotten that he couldn't use his arms because they were filled with more holes than someone who decided to seppuku by cop. Now all he can do is sit there and look at the food as it tauntingly sits in front of them. In a pitiful attempt to eat, he tried bending over and shoveling the food into his mouth using his tongue. It was more inefficient than a school anti-bully campaign. All he ended up doing was making a mess and burning his face from the hot temperature. He was extremely hungry as well. This felt like suffering in a USSR gulag, except there's actual food to eat. That was when she came into the picture. Why are you eating like that? Slowly, Izuku turned to his side to see Nejire barely a foot away from him. If he wasn't confined to his bed because of his injuries, Izuku would have jumped off from her being that close. And Nejire, shouted the boy. Greeting in her usual manner, Nejire replied, hey, Izuku. What are you doing here? I hit my head. You hit your head. Izuku repeated, taking notice of the bandage wrapped around her head. Nejire nodded, saying, yeah, me and Ruku were fighting against really mean people. We were just about to finish taking care of them, but then suddenly one of them blew up and I got injured getting some civilians out of the way. Excuse me, what? Jirou interrupted, a villain blew up. Nodding her head, the brunette responded. Turns out they were some international terrorist group and one of them had a quirk named Bomber. He also yelled something about Akbar right before, but I had no idea what that was about. I couldn't get an explanation for it at the time because I blacked out afterward and was taken to the hospital. I had to stay there for a few days because they were worried I might have some head trauma afterward. It must have been hard for them considering how dizzy you can be, Jirou thought, being smart not to say it out loud out of respect for Izuku and Tamaki. God, I'm mean at times. I really need to get some DCK in me soon. She honestly wasn't sure why she bore such resentment to Nejire. No wait, yes she does. In the mind of the punk rocker, Nejire is an upgraded version of her. From attraction to popularity among the other students. And finally the bust. Jirou might have cake downstairs for sure, but Nejire got an entire pound cake with milkshakes to supplement. The dizzy brunette was basically a complete thick meal ready to order for any lucky man who manages to get her. To compare to her, Jirou might as well be the single-order snack with everything else coming separately with extra cost. It also didn't help how close she was to Tamaki. Most of this irrational bitterness spawned after Jirou started falling for Tamaki. Thank God Izuku was in the mix. That was one possibility she never had to worry about. Unless a three-way happens ... or a four-way, which in that case it's obvious that everyone there must have lost their mind. Taking control of the storytelling from her perspective, Nejire says, now where were we? Oh yeah. They must have forgotten you can't use your arms, giggled the brunette after Izuku explained to her the situation. She was wiping his face with a tissue from the boy's failed attempt to eat with no hands. A sweat dropped from Izuku's face as he stared down at his food, saying, yeah, to her defense, she did look distracted and busy at the moment. I heard her partner broke up with her after confessing that they accidentally, had a kid with another person. Tamaki, that's rough buddy. Jirou, I know. Geez, what a dirtbag that guy was. Izuku, accidentally her partner was another girl. Jirou, what? Nejire, yeah, she was 100% lesbian. Though she was really nice. While I was admitted she gave me a lot of compliments to boost my morale. Izuku, actually she was flirting with you. Nejire, really. She said a lot of nice things that Yu usually says to me and she was into guys. At least that's what she told me. Though she must be having terrible luck with them because she often goes to other girls for consulting. Jirou, Tamaki, Izuku, Nejire, Twizzles. Nejire, what? Jirou, you really picked them well, Izuku, so I'm guessing it was you who made the first relationship move. Izuku, I mean. Nejire, I don't get it, what's wrong? Tamaki, should I tell her? Jirou, save it for another time, finish up the story, this was supposed to be our secret training. Nejire, right anyways. I can just wait for another person, stated Izuku. He was quickly met with a surprise when he noticed Nejire had picked up the spoon and taken a scoop of food into it. Leaning in closer to him and holding the spoon out to him, the ditzy girl gave a cheerful encouragement to open his mouth. The boy's body jolted back, quickly becoming flustered from the gesture. What's wrong, is it the food? Nejire asked, tilting her head at the boy's reaction. She knew the hospital food wasn't always the best, but she had this meal before. It's one of their best dishes. And no, stammered Izuku. He thought of ways to explain his actions without sounding mean. It's just that The boy was stunned again when he witnessed Nejire take the spoon into her mouth to taste the food. Yummy, she exclaimed, quickly going to pick up another spoonful for the boy. See, it's delicious. Try it. But it's been in your mouth. TTH, that's an indirect kiss now. thought the boy as he stammered again. The food wasn't the problem. Why you don't have to feed me? But you can't use your arms right now. Yeah but, well, I don't want to bother you. Oh that's silly, don't worry about that. I don't mind this at all. We're friends anyway, right? What are friends for? We are. Right we are. But honest I can. Oh, I got it. Nejire suddenly yelled before dashing out of the room. It was definitely the head injury that kept her here, and not anything else from how fast she moved. Izuku took a breath as he thought maybe she'll bring a nurse and who will hopefully give him a different spoon. When the recognizable hospital office appeared at his doorstep, he gracefully greeted them before letting out another squeak when he realized who it was. He doesn't know how, but Nejire managed to obtain a nurse outfit that was about a size too small for her that she had mostly put on as she was entering. The top of her body proportions was greatly emphasized before she finally put it on properly. Mostly, she had gotten lazy and left some cleavage on display for any pair of eyes to take a ticket to the show, and Izuku's own was robbing the entire roll of tickets. Too many questions popped into the greenet's head, blabbering, where, how, why do you have that on? Oh, I thought it would be easier for you if you saw me as a nurse. Would you believe they had one mostly my size laying around? Answered Nejire, speaking casually without explanation of exactly where she got it. There could be a poor nurse who put her clothes down for a moment that can no longer find them, or a naughty nurse who removed those clothes for one reason or another. With too many questions to ask, Izuku stammered, I think it's a bit tight on you. You think so? Nejire asked, twisting and turning to examine the outfit while also allowing the same privilege to Izuku. I thought similar when I was putting it on, but hey, I wasn't looking for accuracy. Now then, without a moment to lose, Nejire had used the spoon that had been in her mouth before to scoop up some more food. This time, instead of immediately offering it to him, she held the spoon close to her mouth as she gently blew on it. Izuku watched as her pursed lips were mere centimeters from the food she was about to feed to him. Till it's cool, just cool, the girl mumbled to herself before offering it to Izuku again, into the mouth. Willing to accept defeat because he couldn't resist the kind gesture nor wanted to seem ungrateful, Izuku hesitantly opened his mouth, allowing Nejire to softly place the spoon into his mouth and deliver a flavor blast. Though, it probably wasn't just the food that made the spoonful have that pack of flavor. Seeing him finally accept it made the blue net float in the air with joy, exclaiming, aha! Knew it'll work, my mom used to do the same thing to me when I was a baby. Izuku only blushed as he chewed his food. As he swallows he thanked her, thank you senpai. Riding off her high, Nejire quickly went to pick up another spoonful for him to consume. Doing the same process as she did before of blowing on it with her pillowy lips, there was something more Izuku wanted to taste that day that wasn't going to nourish him physically. As Nejire held out the spoon to Izuku again, she states with a smile, no problem, just leave it to me. I'm going to pamper you till you're better. Oh, that's pretty sweet, commented Tamaki. His little depression section had worn off. Blushing, Izuku rubbed the back of his head. Hee, it's nothing that special. Not that special, retorted Jirou. Even she was smiling at the fluff. You two weren't even dating and yet you two were doing cosplay for the other. It's not like I asked her to. Izuku replied, his face quickly turning red. The punk rocker continued to tease him, lightly jabbing him in the ribs with her elbow. Not to mention the little senpai name-calling. You probably had a lot of kinky sessions where you were repeating that word. Jirou. Izuku cried. He was reaching peak embarrassment levels from her comments. Self-projecting much. Tamaki thought, he remembered multiple times where the currently teasing raven-haired girl would be practically begging with her word. At one point the Manifest Quirk user thought she had only dated him because she had a great desire to play out some fantasy in her head. Wait guys, shouted Nejire, flauntingly waving her arms around to get their attention. I haven't gotten to the meaning of the story yet. That was just the setup to how we met. What really brought us together was when we both were going through physical therapy. There not only did we grow closer, but it raised no questions as we had a reason for why we were together so often. Wait, physical therapy? Jirou questioned, half squinting at the statement. I thought you only had a head injury. Oh, this happened a few days after when they finally got someone with a quirk to heal me up. Within that time Nejire got blown up again, explained Izuku. Again, stated a shocked Tamaki, he did remember a time where Nejire ended up in the hospital a bunch of times and he did visit her as much as possible, but his internship was extra tough that month, that couldn't be there often. Jirou put a hand to her head, half jokingly mumbling. Was there a second person with a bomber quirk? Nope, same guy, Nejire casually said. The same guy. Yup, exact same guy. Same phrase as well, and yet someone I still didn't manage to hear exactly what he said. Which is surprising because he yells it loudly right before he blows up. I think it might be the way he triggers his quirk. Shouldn't he be dead? Izuku jumped in to add, no, he surprisingly can survive his own explosions. No one knows how he survives nor how he always escapes, he just does. Yeah, it's so strange. Though I don't mind it now, magically no one died from the occasion, and because of getting sent to the hospital multiple times I'm now with my teddy bear. Nejire told them, jumping over to wrap her arms around Izuku. Oh right, the end of the story. So physical therapy. In the fitness room, Izuku was doing some light stretches and 5-pound dumbbell lifting to build back up his muscle. Midway through one of his stretches, Izuku suddenly felt someone lay soft hands on him. Hey, Nejire said, greeting her friend. Ain't someone supposed to help you when you're rehabbing your arms? At this point, Izuku was more comfortable with her presence and knew it was much easier going along with some of her antics than not to. Thankfully, nothing too explicit happened and they were about to chat a bit. I thought you were discharged, Izuku asked. I was, but then I got hurt again, answered Nejire. What happened? I got blown up. Why again? Yup. Why are you saying it so casually? I mean, this is the third time it happened, so it's no longer surprising. Bahun third. What happened the second time? It happened not long after I first got discharged, but I only had to spend a few minutes in another hospital before I was discharged that time. I'm seriously concerned about your health. Oh, don't worry, it wasn't my head that was hurt these last 2 times. Only my body. That's why I'm concerned. Oh, well, this is nothing new. Getting blown up. Yes, well, no. Getting injured during hero duties. Oh, besides, if I have friends like you to keep me company, then I don't mind being sent here every other week. I don't think that's a good mindset. After a few more words and references to Nurse Joy from Pokémon later, Izuku's treatment was finally complete. His arms felt a lot less stiff than it was before. With relief, Izuku said, Thank you, Nejire. My arms feel great. Great, happy to hear, Nejire said, putting her hand together. Can you return the favor and help me with mine? A tint of pink immediately went across his face hearing it. Was he going to lay his hands all over the golden palace of El Dorado that was Nejire's body? He shook his head at such thoughts. No, now isn't the time to think about such things. Nejire has been extremely supportive and helpful to me. I can at least do the same without being caught up by urges, Izuku thought, turning to Nejire with a smile and answering, Sure, Nejire, what are you doing? Yoga. On second look, Izuku noticed how Nejire removed the shirt and sweatpants she was wearing to cover her yoga clothes. That black pants and the teal blue top was excellent in highlighting her peak physical form. As the brunette placed the mat down, doing some light stretching on her own, she looked back at the boy and asked, Are you coming? A hard gulp came from Izuku as nervous sweat poured down his face. This was going to stiffen his body. Give me a moment. From there it was a steep descent from silly attraction to absolute infatuation as we both took care of the other during our rehab. Izuku stated, Well, my one rehab. Nejire had multiple. During one of my last days, we used the opportunity to spend some time outside of the hospital. And no one has raised much fuss about why we spent so much time with each other for a while since they knew we were hospitalized and rehab around the same time, added Nejire, still hugging her teddy bear tightly. Izuku gave a few weak chuckles as he said, Thankfully with Nejire's nature, we were able to get away with so much more than we should have in front of others because most just associated it with her personality. All you need to do is find some activity or reasonable situation that'll be a perfect naturally cover to why you two were at the same location for extended periods of time that doesn't automatically lead to romance, advised Nejire, who was amazingly being wise right now. You don't even have to let everyone know. It just needs to exist in some form where witnesses could be there. From there, it's just a matter of knowing how to incorporate that story to any question about why you two know each other and are friends. If done correctly, not too many people would think twice if they see you two together. Nodding his head, Izuku added, I should warn, this is mostly a light blanket to not make people immediately suspicious if they ever see you two together. Something in case someone you know sees you walking down the street or passing by each other in the hallway or something like that. You shouldn't rely on it to cover every action you do. You should do as much as you can to keep almost all intimacy secret and work to make sure as little people as possible see you two together ever. Them getting a passing glance at you two just being around each other won't raise many questions. But if they consistently see you two everywhere together, and doing certain things like getting a bit too touchy, then they might have a few questions. You're going to walk a fine line between people seeing you two as just good or close friends and possibly in a relationship. It'll be preferable to keep everyone in the mindset of the former. Hearing this, Jirou exclaimed, Well, that's not fair. I didn't mind the unfair advantage you got with the super touchy super friend girlfriend you have at first, but now I'm starting to imagine all the things you can bluntly do in front of others and have it passed off as just you two being friendly. While if we do any of that stuff, we'll definitely end up in the principal office. As the punk rocker became pouty at the unfairness, she crossed her arms. Looking back, she remembered a few times she spotted Nejire hugging Izuku from behind, pressing her bountiful breast against the back of his neck. It was probably a booty call signal she created for them, Jirou thought, giving a small huff. Sadly, she was incorrect. The green-blue couple did have a booty call signal, but it wasn't that. What was happening there was just Nejire being Nejire. Coming to the comfort of his now puffy girlfriend, Tamaki told her, Don't worry about that stuff. We don't need to boldly hug in front of everyone to be happy. I know, Jirou softly murmured, looking downward toward the floor with a tinted blush. It would still be nice too. We can do it here, in front of these friends, suggested Tamaki, leaving his body open to her. At first, Jirou didn't respond, but her body softly fell onto Tamaki's chest. The garden still served as a nice cover for them, and with the four of them there, it'll be tougher for anyone who does glance at them to immediately recognize them. If you want, stammered the blushing Jirou, looking away as she still felt weird having people watch her being this way with someone, but it was also a nice feeling. It made her feel more valid about their relationship, that they were a couple for each other and not just his hidden call. The feeling of his arms wrapped around her felt like a warm blanket during winter. The brunette let out some excited noises looking between the two of them. Seeing her friend happy makes her happy. But they had work to do, with the same vigor as always, she says. Don't get comfortable like that yet. You'll have a better opportunity for that during our next lesson. What's that? The double violet-haired couple said. Finding out how to have fun, Izuku told them, getting up with Nejire still clinging to him. We're going to show you some spots where you two can be together in peace. Are you sure this is a good idea? Whispered a very bashful Jirou, who was keeping her blushing face staring downwards like she just saw her ex walking into the store she was in. Izuku, being the ever-supportive friend, assured her, telling the violet-haired girl, "Trust us, it'll be fine." Trembling in his hoodie, Tamaki commented, "I'm with Jirou on this one. This is too highlighting." What do you mean? Nejire asked, confused. The brunette tilted her head at her friend. What's wrong with going to a cutesy cafe? The interior of the cafe was filled with bright colors, shining with cotton candy-shaped decorations, and a wide variety of maids with extraordinary personalities to serve their valued customers. You mean besides the fact it's a cutesy cafe? How about because it's a couple's cutesy cafe? Muttered Jirou, trying her best to keep her volume low and not freak out. You know, the thing couples go to. The long ear-lobed girl quickly covered her mouth to silence herself, taking a quick scan of the room to make sure she didn't draw any attention to them. No one seems to be paying them any mind yet. When she was sure they were in the clear, she sighed in relief, with the timid Tamaki patting her back to ease her spiking anxiety. Won't we be caught red-handed if anyone sees us here? Tamaki asked, rearranging his hoodie to make sure it properly covered his head. It's a literal couples cafe, commented a paranoid Jirou, with her whited-out eyes. It looked like she was speaking while unconscious. I know, Jirou. It's so risky. I'm telling them. So risky. Drink your Pepsi, Tamaki told her, shifting her drink closer to her. The neurotic punk rocker accepted the cup with both hands, giving a mopey mumble. I wanted RC Cola. Me too, sadly they don't serve it here. So unfair, she pouted, looking down at the dark brown liquid in front of her that merely mocked the refreshment she wanted at the time. Not like it's a crime, Tamaki pointed out. A cold sweat dripped down his face as he hopes what they got would be enough to satisfy her for now. It should be, she pouted, taking a slow sip of what she considers to be the lesser drink. Jirou could at least compromise the situation by leaning against the surprisingly burly shoulders her boyfriend keeps hidden under all his clothes. They make a comfy headrest and an endearing pillar of support. Despite them being in public, the older boy couldn't help himself but pat the top of his dreary partner's head. Izuku let out an awkward chuckle, stating, in all honesty, I'm surprised you're the one freaking out more, Jirou. No offense, but I thought Tamaki would be the, how you say, timorous, inexperienced type in this relationship. No, it's mostly her who freaks out, Tamaki answered, getting staggered when he felt an elbow jabbed at him, at least when it comes to this kind of stuff in the relationship. Of course Tamaki has some semblance of experience when it comes to dating, Nejire stated. He did date you for a short amount of time. He what? Yelled Jirou so loud that it caught the attention of nearly everyone in the dining room. Thankfully they were quick to go back to their own business as the punk rocker turned to her boyfriend, sporting a particular cold glare that told how this was the first time she heard anything of the sort. She rephrased her words through strained teeth. You. What? Wide-eyed at his little secret being exposed, Tamaki's mouth hung open as he racked his brain for a reply. The entire time the brunette innocently stared at the two of them, ignorant of the floodgate she unintentionally released. Great start to a double date. Boo. I have to use the bathroom, stated Tamaki, blitzing away from his moody girlfriend to escape to the safe space all men have when a date is going poorly. Izuku could feel nothing but pity for Tamaki. God could only guess how far that trickle of small but lethal poison could affect the future. In an attempt to dilute the toxin in the air, the brunette brought the conversation back to its original topic. Anyways, I know that this may seem counterproductive, but this is actually a great cover for all of us to use. How? Jirou asked, confused because it seems like they're at a place that might as well have neon signs signaling that they're all dating. Izuku took a sip from his drink before answering. Well, this is a couples cafe after all. The majority of their customers are couples on dates who will be paying more attention to each other than a couple of strangers. And how many students from UA do you know are even dating? Jirou thought it over, saying, I don't think anyone we know are dating. Oh, except for Todoroki and Momo, but they're quite reserved about their relationship. It'll be hard to imagine them coming to a place like this. My grade is the same, added Nejire. Exactly, Izuku said with a soft smile on his face. We're even at the table most obscure to the window, so the chances of someone spotting us on a walk by is slim. Oh, I see, you're following the logic of hiding in plain sight. Not bad thinking, Jirou complimented with a smile. This is why she came to Izuku. He got ideas. He managed to keep his relationship as hidden as it was for so long, and if she has anything to go on, it sounded like it was going well. And healthy. What do you have planned when someone walks in? That's where us being here as a group comes in. The only other kind of customers they get are single people who like the menu options or a group of friends. We're the latter, with the excuses being we were curious about the experience or that we just really enjoyed the specials. but found it too awkward to come here alone, so of course, we just convinced some friends to go with us. Nothing suspicious about friends wanting a specially made omelet at discounted prices, it's not that uncommon. Nejire added in, we've been meaning to find a way to come here for quite a while, but since it was just the two of us we could never make it work. I'm so glad you came out to us, now we can try out all sorts of stuff we couldn't before. The upperclassman gave such a cheery smile toward Jirou that even the spiteful punk rocker couldn't help feel her heart melt a little, making Jirou timidly stared back down at her soda before her heart could melt anymore. It's whatever, she mumbled, blushing while taking a sip. I just needed the green fluff's brains. I know why, my daring Zuzu got the big brains to solve the issues, Nejire cheered, throwing her tender arms around Izuku to pull him in for a playful hug. He got a weird talent in problem solving even when it's not intentional. The greenette blushed as he felt Nejire's bountiful body pressing against him, stammering to say, hey, cut it out. Aw come on, I'm only saying what you've done. Not that, the enthusiastic hugging. We're still in public so we can't draw too much attention to ourselves. HMP, this is the one place where intimacy is expected. If not now then never. Alright, a few minutes. Try not to shake the table okay? K, was the syrupy reply Nejire gave as she nuzzled Izuku, feeling the bliss of showing the many forms of public affection she knew. The lovey-dovey hearts were practically emanating from their heads. The Pepsi-filled cup shook in the hands of the raven-haired girl. The Tower of Envy could only be built so high before it became unstable. Why did they have to do that here? Oh right, they're on a double date. Not having the ice-cold heart to tell them to cut it out, the punk rocker just sat there awkwardly, witnessing a level of affinity she strived for. If it wasn't for those damn rules. Eventually, Izuku did catch the hint of how unpleasant it must have felt for Jirou considering her dilemma, and managed to get Nejire to cool down with the heated PDA despite the raven-haired girl's insistence to not mind her. It wasn't hard for the bubbly couple to peer through that lyceing as they've caught her multiple times taking longing glances at them. Thankfully Tamaki soon returned, taking his spot next to Jirou. He spent the last couple of minutes test running all the different scenarios of questioning Jirou might have for him once he returned, and he was slightly, kinda, not really, a bit ready to face them. To his surprise, Tamaki didn't get any questions or passive-aggressive comments. Jirou only scooted closer to Tamaki quietly for extra comfort. Somehow, this response only riddles Tamaki with more anxiety than if the raven-haired girl had chastised him upon arrival. Yet, at the same time it brought a familiar sense of company he deeply missed. Then Jirou pulled a bold move, lifting herself up and seating herself squarely on Tamaki's lap, blasting the poor boy with a tsunami of flustered feelings that one would think he was born with naturally red skin. Jirou wasn't holding up that well either. Her eyes were in squiggles, and her face emitted a pink aura from her blushing, but her commitment held strong. Nejire gave them her form of support by giving a soft applause one would give at her kid's soccer game, which only deepens how crimson they became. With the waterfall of unease flooding their bodies to make them want to move to another country, the purple-haired couple manages to hold firm. They wanted to enjoy this moment. With enough courage, the shaky hands of Tamaki were slowly but surely coiling itself around Jirou's waist when, "Hey there," one of the cutely dressed waitresses announced, popping up next to the table. Her sudden appearance freaked Jirou out, her body jolted and she banged her knee against the table when she instinctively hopped off her boyfriend's comfy lap. A million curses, all with their own auto-tuned form, screamed in Jirou's head as she whimpered over her aching knee. "Sorry, was I interrupting something?" the waitress asked with an animated head tilt. She gave herself a playful tap on her own head. "Silly me." And no. The raven-haired couple both stated in unison so quickly that even the paid worker looked a bit overtaken from it. Shaking herself out of the shock, the maid-dressed waitress laid down 2 rather large platters of ice cream to the 2 sides, stating, "Well, either way, your frosty treats are now served. Enjoy." The group thanked their server as she went off to continue doing her job. They ordered 2 deluxe couples sundaes, a delightful stylized dessert to share with someone you love, and cheaper to buy than 2 separate sundaes. While Izuku and Nejire had both agreed with choosing chocolate as they considered it one of their favorite flavors, Tamaki and Jirou settled on vanilla as their favorites had conflicting tastes. Already back on their insanely adorably interactions, Nejire had taken a scope with her spoon and was offering it to her green bun. "Come on, open up," Nejire insisted, hovering the spoon around Izuku's mouth who was reluctant to be spoon-fed. While smiling, Izuku replied, "Nejire, I got 2 working arms this time. I don't need help eating. Whether you're completely healthy or broke every bone in your body except your jaw, it'll always be fun to feed you. You make the best faces." "Well, okay, but you first." "Ah," was Nejire's response, opening her mouth with closed eyes waiting to have frosty chocolate delivered. Not keeping her waiting, Izuku grabbed his own spoon to dump a chunk of tasty ice cream into his girlfriend's mouth, watching as the brunette's mouth curled into a huge smile. as she savored the flavor. Nejire then moves to complete her part of the exchange, feeding a spoonful of ice cream to Izuku as well, though she performed the task more sloppily, getting a smudge of the contents on the greenet's nose. The two chuckled about it as Izuku wiped about half it off with his thumb, but with there still being a bit remaining, Nejire took personal responsibility for her slight blunder, holding Izuku's head still so she can move and lick up the remaining ice cream off his nose. Despite how long they've been dating, she still finds new ways to tomato face her darling. The cuteness AoE effect from her actions spread to her co-couple. They looked like novice acquaintances compared to them. Not wanting to be outdone, or more truthfully to confirm their own confidence in their relationship, Jirou attempted to echo the actions of her bustier compatriot. Taking a spoonful from their own platter, her trembling hands held the spoon toward Tamaki while looking away, puckering up her lips. The gesture left the older boy in a stunned state before he hesitantly lowered himself down to receive it, commuting in the stiffest exchange the employees in the restaurant ever witnessed. By the time the roles were reversed, some questioned if they should call the authorities because it looked as though they were doing this against their wills. One brave male worker searched outside to make sure there wasn't a sniper. The shy couple only held on long enough for Jirou to clamp down her mouth over her serving before they crumbled from the anxiety. "I gotta go to the restroom," Tamaki exclaimed, excusing himself from the table and beelining straight to his sanctuary, leaving his blushing girlfriend hiding her face in her hands. "I can't believe I did that," squealed Jirou internally. She wanted to die right then and there. Her heart was pounding like it was trying to run a marathon, and her head was radiating steam from her brain being scrambled and fried like eggs. Seeing this, Izuku excused himself from the table as well, telling his affectionate girlfriend, "I'll be right back." "Okay," Nejire said, turning her attention immediately to Jirou to bombard her with comments. "You two are so adorable." Jirou let out a whimper through her covered face. The brunette's comment was only making her blushing worse. "It reminds me of when Izuku and I started dating. He was so shy that he would hesitate to hold hands when we were alone in his room." "Stop. Oh, I wish I can time travel back to those days. They were a joy to experience and work through. You're so lucky to be living through the once-in-a-lifetime experience. Have mercy. Is this what they call the honeymoon phase of dating, or does that only apply to marriage? God, please take me out. I don't care what you do. Just get it done. That reminds me, have you two ever thought about..." "Woo-woo-woo," Jirou squealed, frantically kicking her legs. Over by the male restrooms, Izuku was about to enter to help Tamaki ease some of his anxiety, as he had similar struggles when it came to dating, especially doing it in more public places. He once got himself so worked up during a date that he managed to become drenched off his own sweat, outside, in the middle of winter. But then, the last voice he ever wanted to hear in this establishment rang out. "Deku, oh my sweet baby All Might figurines collection," Izuku muttered, praying that he was wrong in his assumption of who he heard. He hesitantly turned around and apparently, God decided it was his turn in fate to get FCK'd in order to bring balance to the world, as standing near the entrance of the restaurant's kitchen was Katsuki. The blonde wasted no time stomping his way over to question the boy. "The hell are you doing here?" "Oh well, you know, a group of friends invited me because they wanted to try some of the food here." What are you doing here?" Izuku asked, nervously chuckling while he rubbed the back of his head. A tight alibi is near useless when one sucks at delivering it. "I work here for..." "Wait a minute, don't turn this on me. I wasn't. I was just curious. This doesn't seem like a place you'll acknowledge the existence of." "Damn right, and I would have continued to do so if the pay and benefits weren't something ideal for me right now." "Is something wrong?" "Wait, don't tell me your living situation is so bad that you're forced to work as a sessy waiter here." "No, you idiot. I'll rather live on the streets than stoop that low." All right. I'm a cooker for your information, so don't start spreading misinformation about it. In fact, don't tell anyone at all, got it? Mind your damn business. Got it, not a word. Was never a fan of gossip anyways. Now what brings you here? What? Why are you here? I thought you said we should mind our business. Did you just use my own words against me? I don't even know what you want," Izuku exclaimed, not knowing how to walk away from this situation without causing a scene that'll reveal his secret. Does he just go along with everything he says? Talk back, bail. Thankfully he didn't have to choose, as a voice in the kitchen called out to them. "Back, Hugo." A voice shouted, "Leave the customer alone and get back on the stove." "I'm coming, damn it." "Can't I take a break?" Katsuki shouted back, grumbling 100 curses under his breath before turning to Izuku. "I'll deal with you later." It was right when the blonde disappeared again that Tamaki finally re-emerged from the bathroom, sighing to himself. Not missing a beat, Izuku grabbed Tamaki's hand and dragged him with light speed away back to the girls. "What's happening?" Tamaki dragged, befuddled at being dragged around suddenly. "We need to get the FCK out of here," answered Izuku, not wanting to spend another second there. They quickly met with the girls and the group was out of the cafe quicker than Ada can recipro burst in track and field. With that partial disaster behind them, the group decided to walk around town for a few hours to chat. Thankfully the group facade was an excellent cover. As the late evening drew and the sky turned down, the gang came across one of those parks with water sprinklers that shoot up water. Nejire was the first who suggested they go through it. Well, actually she grabbed Izuku's hand and practically flew him over. Not wanting to be left behind, mostly because them being in the group was the only thing that made them comfortable to be out together, and rushed after them. They must have come at a good time as the sprinkles erupted again, surrounding them with tall jet streams of water and soaking their clothes. This didn't disturb the energetic girl at all. She was reveling in it, chuckling with her partner. It's like a free water park. No slides or pools, seems about right for something free, Izuku joked, happily watching the brunette dance around in the light shower sprinkling down on them. It's not about the materials you have but how you use them. All it takes is a bit of creativity, Nejire told him, putting her hands together and using her spiral powers to create a small vortex that collected the water dropping in it, showing it to Izuku with glee at her miniature water tornado. See. Imagination. Hey, that's actually a pretty cool use of your GAH. The greenette suddenly yelled. As they were playing, their clothes began soaked. How soaked? Soak enough that the pink bra that Nejire decided to wear that day became increasingly more visible through her shirt. Thank the stars she wore white, I mean. Oh no. Nejire tilted her head, confused as she asked, what's wrong? Nothing. Watching from a distance, the raven-haired couple was snickering. I'm still surprised the two of them are dating, commented Jirou, sporting a grin. At this point, it was like watching a rom-com live. It's not that far-fetched, at least compared to us, Tamaki told her, turning to look at the small punk rocker. We're not that improbable. Maybe a bit rare and unlikely, but it's not like we're total strangers. Yeah, we go to the same school after all, and I still remember the day you came in with Mirio and Nejire, so we're decently acquainted. Yup. Jirou brushed her hair a bit. You probably find it annoying that I'm saying what we already know. Sorry, guess I'm trying to validate us. To myself, really, after watching them sail by, it feels as though we're a half-built ship. Sure. I know I can be a bit fickle when you disagree, but half of the time ties just for sport. You don't actually have to go along with everything I say. Yeah. Are you even paying attention? Jirou asked, turning to see Tamaki seemed to nearly spaced out looking at her. Wondering what was wrong, she looked down to see that her own soaked clothes were showing off her undergarment, a purple and black designed bra for her cup size underneath. She quickly shot her arm up to cover herself. Perv. Snapping out of it, Tamaki quickly defended himself. Sorry, I got distracted. As he spoke, he turned away and took off his hoodie, giving it to her. It was soggy as hell, but at least it covered her up. Thanks, Jirou said. She put it off to the side to dry so it can be worn after they get out here. Guess I made the right choice buying these. I was planning on using these for a different occasion, but I would always hesitate to see if you would like them. I wish you brought them out sooner, Tamaki told her, placing his hands on her waist, though I guess the wait was worth it after all. It topped off a pretty good day. Really? Tamaki nodded. Despite everything, today was the most relaxing date we've had in a while. It makes me excited to see where we can go with Nejire and Izuku's help. Thank you for still thinking we had a chance. Well, I just didn't want to stop this train we're on. Really, that's uncharacteristically cheesy of you. Well, sue me. I think I'll rather do this, Tamaki said, lifting the giggling Jirou up so they were eye level before planting a kiss on her lips. I would want more of that, please, flirted Jirou, as she leaned back in for a few extra smooches. Yesterday was fun, Nejire cheered, tossing around a fancy-looking handcuff. The handcuff was thick in bulk as it was built with a special reinforced metal. You don't have to keep saying that, Tamaki replied, walking with her in the school halls. I know, but it was one of the best days ever. It was nice. We should do it again. That might take some time to prepare. Well, today will be a perfect time since we're going over to their class today for the super ultimate training. All we're doing is a light training session and showing off the beta version of handcuff they want us to try out. Right? They'll be excited to see this baby. They're so strong. I heard even All Might and Endeavor struggled to get them off when they tested these. They must be near indestructible, I guess. Hey, let's hurry up and get there. The quicker we do, the quicker we can start planning with Suzu and Jirou. Let's make sure we don't discuss any of this in front of the whole class, please. It'll be humiliating if after everything we got caught because you decide to pop the worst questions in front of everyone. The brunette pouted at her. Hey, I'm not stupid enough to do that. It's not about stupidity, Tamaki commented, just that talkative airheads and secrets don't mesh well. How mean? Who was that boy you were kissing yesterday? How quickly things can go wrong. This wasn't what Jirou was expecting to face the second she walked into class today, being immediately bombarded with questions from Mina and Hagakure. Come on, Mina, let's not pry, Ochako told the girls. What? No, my curiosity is skyrocketing. Right now, Hagakure retorted. WWH, what are you guys talking about? Stammering Jirou, she was already crumbling from the pressure. Don't play dumb, Mina replied with a teasing smile. I saw when you put that guy's hoodie on the bench before going back to him. How? When? Where did you see me? I didn't see anyone around us, squeaked Jirou immediately, her face flustered red. Aha, gotcha. Mina snapped, pointing a finger at the accused. You admit it, so that was you. Jiru's body jolted, a painful thought crossed her mind. Don't tell me. The pink snooper continued. Me, Hagakure, Setsuna, and Ochako were all riding a bus because Ochako needed help with something. Then the bus passed by that park with the shooting water sprinklers and we were sure we spotted you from the window before those water streams blurred our view. Oh, you got to be FC kidding me. She internally screamed. Did she really fall for the easiest trick in the book, performed by Mina of all people? Her IQ must have dropped harder than a brick when it comes to romance if she fell this low. The two giddy girls scooted closer. So who's the lucky boy? Jirou could only stammer a few responses to keep them at bay. No politicians would be considering her to lay on their behalf anytime soon, but it was passable for Jirou to handle two nosy girls. But then Kaminari jumped in, curious as well, then Minda out of jealousy, which then formed a group that made their other classmates who usually wouldn't be interested in such a conversation become invested. Next thing the poor punk rocker knew, half the class had their eyes on her, and riddled her body with anxiety-filled bullets. Boo, boo, boo. Panicked Jirou as the questions and attention piled on her. When did people care so much about me dating? Damn it, damn it, damn it. What do I say? What do I do? Do I say he goes to a different school? Will that work? What if we accidentally showed something that revealed that we were from UA and they're waiting for me to lie first so they can hit me with another gotcha? The usually calm mind of Jirou was fluxing as she panicked that she couldn't think straight. Her concern wasn't the fact that people found out she's dating someone. Well, it was a tiny bit, but the main reason is that one wrong phase and someone might pick up that it's Tamaki. If that happens, who knows what'll happen, and the one who'll take the brunt of the storm will be Tamaki regardless of the results. Just the thought of it brought shivers to her. Well, spill, insisted Mina, pressing closer. The innocence in her request, if only she knew the vicious bear she was poking awake. Hagakure jumped in as well, as he cooed. Ooh, Jirou continued. She was a hair length away from saying some extremely screwed up excuse that would get everyone off her back but would utterly ruin her reputation. It would be worth it to her as long as it kept her and Tamaki safe, but in the long run it'll be the ultimate weight on her shoulder for the next 2 years, you see. It was me, Izuku stated, sliding himself next to Jirou like a protective guardian. Placing a supportive hand on her shoulder, she was there with me because we're dating. EHHH. The baffled screams of the classroom echoed throughout the halls. Hey, shut up, Aizawa told them from his sleeping bag. He gave them a break as they waited for the third years to show up so he could rest. He can't do that if they're screaming so loud. While the class turned its attention to their teacher, Jirou quickly turned around to whisper to Izuku. What are you doing? Izuku assured her, it's fine. Nejire actually thought of this possibility. After today, we need to go on 1,000 more double dates, Nejire stated when she was spending the night in Izuku's room to dry up. Maybe not literally, Izuku replied, resting with her in bed. While it was fun, we can't do it too often. Eventually someone is going to catch on if we're always going out to date like scenery. What do we do then? Well then, you and Jirou can just pretend to date then. Izuku nearly fell off the bed hearing that. What? Yeah, come on, all 4 of us are in this together so we might as well take advantage of it. If anything, it might help if people think you two are dating since it's within the school's rules, and it'll be the perfect cover for our double dates that no one would need to question. I guess it'll feel weird though. It'll be fine, just think of it like acting. It'll mostly be in name anyway. You won't have to do much besides just tell people that you two are reserved about your relationship, which is why you're not so publicly affectionate, and once in a while pretend to have private conversations. Considering what we're planning to do, that'll be easy. Well, alright, I'll do it. You sure you're fine with this? Of course, I wouldn't suggest it if I wasn't. Besides, I think Jirou could use an ace in the hole. She's quite the nervous type. Jirou stared in shock hearing this. Now she regrets a lot of the remarks she silently made about the airhead out of jealousy. Maybe it won't be so bad actually trying to be friends with her. When the class turned their attention back on Jirou, she was quick to catch on and play the role. Why yes, we're dating. 100%, me and Izuku. They'll work on her lying another time. I don't know, doesn't seem convincing to me, Mina stated, placing a suspicious hand on her chin as she stared at the two. Not that I can't see it happening, but Izuku doesn't fit the image I have in my end. And the rash acting anxiety flooded Jirou again. Hagakure added in, I agree, I couldn't see his face but I remembered the silhouette looked like he picked you up to kiss. FCK. Jirou screamed in her mind. While Izuku was taller than her, he wasn't tall enough to fit that description. She needed to do something and quick before they think too deep into it, and no excuse she could think of would work. Yeah, even the hair seemed a bit different from Izuku's style. Or was that because his hair was wet from the water? Mina commented. I was thinking the same thing, Hagakure said. I feel like I saw that body type before. FCK. Even Izuku had nervous sweat on his face, but he stepped in to say, the issue might just be that I'm not the ideal man you have in your head that Jirou would date, but I can assure you that I'm very committed. The Greenet's honorable speech was quickly interrupted, taking drastic measures as her heart couldn't take it anymore. Jirou cupped Izuku's face and planted an unexpected deep kiss on Izuku's lips. The wave of reactions that erupted in the room was momentous. Katsuki literally spat up his drink. Uraraka eyes whited out, and Ida was getting his hand ready for some discipline. Looks like we're no longer the only class couple, Todoroki commented. Yes, and already they're going to more fun places than us, replied Momo. The bi-colored boy threw his arms into the air. I told you 1,000 times. I don't like getting wet, it messes with my use of fire. You never even liked using your fire, snapped Momo, turning away from Todoroki with the huff and the infamous crossing of the arms. I'm trying to be better than that now for my family. What do you want me to do? Todoroki pointed out, overdramatically gesturing as he states, you're tearing me apart, Momo. Back to the more scandalous couple. While Izuku didn't move as his mind left this plane of existence, Jirou took small looks to see if her classmates were buying it. Well, someone brought it. Snap. The whole classmate went dead silent as they all turned to the entrance. Standing there was Nejire, with one of her eyes twitching, and in her hands the state-of-the-art handcuffs that were accidentally snapped in half when she walked in. Jesus Christ, commented Tamaki, staring wide-eyed at Nejire's impressive feat. The younger devious duo was sweating bullets when they saw their respective partners come in at the worst possible time. Jirou more than Izuku as the oni-like glare of Nejire directed itself directly at her. Not knowing how much time there was before something big went down, Jirou let out a quick last resort statement to Nejire in an attempt to prevent things from getting worse. I panicked. Later. Hey recovery girl, one of my students got murdered, Aizawa nonchalantly stated as he kicked into the school's nurse's office. I need your quirk. ... huh. The confused old lady responded. When it comes to species competing against each other for suitable mates, most think of the males, butting heads with their botherin' and showing off feats to impress the opposite sex. On average, the males of a species are usually born with bodies more fit for brutish physical activities. It's why in nature most animals have the males be the hunters. But just because it's the most common doesn't mean it's always the norm. There are quite a few species where it's the females who are the brave protectors or vicious hunters of their packs, such as the lionesses. Then there are the species that amazingly have the females battling their mates, such as the spotted hyena, who are known to have fatal fighting matches. That'll explain the female dominance in their pack. Regardless, each case shows that girls can be just as aggressive if not more aggressive when it comes to securing their partners. The dating world is like a jungle. There aren't any reservations or codes over who gets what. It's up to the individual to fight for what they want and maintain it. The vicious territorialism we see in animals is their answer to the reality that nothing is ever a certainty. Anyone at any time can come in to steal whatever one worked to obtain, and the only way to repel against it is one's own efforts to keep their possessions. The best defense is always a good offense. So what happens when someone breaks the unspoken rule of stay in your lane? Well, Jirou is about to find that out, the hard way. History was made when it was established that the most terrifying situation on Earth is seeing an enraged Nejire. Wave motion 100% output. Oh God. The best one can do for a chance of survival is grovel and plea. Please forgive us, pleaded Izuku, getting on all fours to bow so hard his forehead cracked the ground when it was slammed against it. He knew of the imminent danger that was upon the first years all too well. Nejire and I thought it'll be a safe ace in the hole in case someone ever gets suspicious. We didn't mean for it to go as far as it did. It's fine, I get it, replied Tamaki, giving an all-around mellow reaction to the whole ordeal. Taken aback, Izuku looked up befuddled at the violet-haired teen's reaction. He was expecting something a lot worse. Nejire filled me in on it this morning. She was banging on my door before I even got out of bed. Tamaki told him. He picked Izuku back onto the boy's feet as it felt weird having him like that. If I'm being honest, this was bound for mischief at conception, so I assumed something like this would happen eventually. Something tells me that Nejire didn't have that foresight. She's the one we should be worried about, and Jirou should be the one we're worried for. Both of the boys looked at the dreadful display the monitor showed them of the training ground. By a complete miracle, or maybe a semblance of self-control, Nejire didn't immediately go istic. Instead, like many others in today's landscape, she expressed her negative feelings towards someone through passive-aggressive means. In this scenario, it was doing exactly what the third years came there to do. Training. They were supposed to be showing off the capabilities of the newly created handcuff meant to be more effective against villains with difficult quirks, but they were broken by Nejire with her bare hands. Tamaki will have to make a note to the manufacturer that their new reinforced metal handcuff isn't jealous girlfriend proof. Improvising, Nejire decided to dedicate the day's lesson as a game of cops and robbers. The third years will have to chase down the first year in attempts to arrest them. If any of the first years get cuffed, they're out and leave class for the day. This was the most terrifying day of Jirou's life as Nejire spent the entire time hunting for her. The punk rocker hid for her life as all she could hear was the sound of Nejire blasting away her classmates. The blue net quite literally blitzed through half of Jirou's classmates within the first couple of minutes, not even bothering cuffing them. The only person doing the cuffing was Tamaki, stopping all the students who were running away from the blue bombshell. Eventually, Sun Eater's job turned into evacuating the students away from his deadly classmate. For a short moment, Jirou had hoped when Aizawa finally called the class for the door. She never thought she'd be so happy to hear class was over in her face and immediately made plans to hide in a bunker for the next 2 years to give Nejire some time to calm down. But one cannot escape malice so easily. Right as she was about to be home free, she found the tender arms of Nejire come around her collar from behind. Hey Aizawa, do you mind if Jirou and I can use the room for a little longer? Nejire asked, with closed eyes and a smiling expression that hid her devilish intent. Aizawa, looking more tired than usual, looked back at the two girls and asked, why? Well, Jirou has been begging for me to give her a few private lessons to help improve her quirk, explained Nejire, talking awfully calm from her recent display. Now would be the best time since we're already here and pumped up. Aizawa grunted before asking, are you guys serious? Of course we are, we promised to clean up after ourselves, Nejire exclaimed in her cheerful manner, though something was subtly off. The brunette turned to Jirou, still smiling as she said, right Jirou? We have so much to discuss. Why yes, we do, stammered Jirou. Her voice was shaking but she kept up a front to Aizawa for as long as Nejire was looking at him. The second the maniac holding her by the neck looked away, the punk rocker rapidly shook her head, pleading that her teacher would take the hint. Aizawa squinted at the two, giving a disgruntled groan at the girls. That sounds like nothing but a drag. Aizawa yes. Just make sure you lock up properly, the teacher states, tossing them the keys before leaving. Aizawa no. Jirou wanted to run after him for protection, but she felt a sudden force from the arms wrapped around her that kept her still. The witch had increased her presence behind her, hexing her to be pacified as she watched one of the last hopes she had of coming out of today safely leave the area. Once the adult was long gone along with the rest of the potential witnesses, Nejire leaned in close to Jirou's ear to whisper a phrase that sent a frosty chill down the girl's spine. You got 10 seconds. TT to explain myself, squeaked Jirou, visibility shaking. Nejire leisurely shook her head, the sunny smile she had on slowly descended, showing off the endless darkness that was hiding beneath. The first-year girl immediately booked it, putting as much distance between her and the bringer of retribution, shouting, oh God. 10, 9, counted Nejire. Counting makes it so much worse. In an attempt to stop the madness, Izuku rushed to the side of Nejire, persuading her, Nejire, dear, swirly pop, remember, we did kinda agree to this. Granted, at the time we didn't expect it would escalate so quickly to kiss. Stepping too close to a landmine, Nejire softly pressed her fingers against her boyfriend's lips to shut him up. She only gave him a single phrase as a warning to stay out of it. I'll deal with you later. The brunette then took a few steps forward as she continued her count, getting herself ready, 6, 5. Despite the menacing threat, Izuku made a stupid boyfriend decision by attempting again to calm the furious fury, bursting in to stop a man from his suicidal path. Tamaki covered the young boy's mouth before dragging him away. When Izuku finally broke his mouth free, he said to Tamaki, what are you doing? Dude, trust me, it's better this way. An eerie vibe of panic infected Tamaki's voice. What? Let them get it out, we can pick up the piece afterward. I wait, pieces. It's either you or them and trust me, you don't want it to be you. I was young and ignorant like you once before. Last time I was in a situation like this I ended getting stabbed. How? Story for another time, we need to escape the splash zone. That's how the boys ended up watching their girlfriends duke it out. Duke it out being a strong term seeing as it was one girlfriend running for their life from the warpath of the other. Do you think they'll be okay? Izuku asked, more worried for Jirou's well-being. The older boyfriend seems to be more relaxed about the situation, replying, how I see it, this is like if two friends are fighting. While it can look bad, at the end of the day nothing will be done that's permanent. It's the people that try to come between it that are in the most danger. That means they'll come out of this mostly unscathed. Oh God no, Jirou is going to get her sit wrecked. You have no faith. The onslaught on the training grounds continued. 30% output, Gring Wave. OSIT, 50% output, Spiral Current. WAAH, 70% output, Gyre Tide. Help me please. 100% output, Nejire Flood. Have mercy, there's no sympathy here for you. Blast after blast, many explosions were caused by sparkly yellow energy. More than once did Jirou barely avoid a direct hit, making it through smart turns and using cover. Panting like she ran a marathon because she practically did, Jirou mumbled to herself, I'll have to keep dodging till she runs out of juice. At least she can do any worse. Secret technique. Jirou immediately snapped her head back. With wide eyes she muttered, the what? Go beyond. Words that have brought joy and hope to millions now shepherd only fright and terror as Jirou could only anticipate what comes next, only having enough time to express her distress. Oh nah. 150% output, Helix Tsunami. Gravel rumbled as a roaring wave of spiraling yellow energy rushed down the streets. As it heads straight toward the poor punk rocker, the girl scrambled to get away screaming for her life. No. Boom. A few minutes and large blasts went by. Crawling out of the rubble of a collapsed street block, a ruffled Jirou would crawl out like a groundhog to see if it's safe. After invoking the wrath of a god, it would be smart to scope out the scene before moving as it might be a better option to continue playing dead. From the look of it, pushing past 100% output was quite tiring for the enraged brunette. Not even she can be plus ultra all the time. Seeing this as a chance to finally try to talk it out, Jirou got in range of Nejire's sight, with her hands up to show she means no harm. Nejire, I know you're mad. Nejire looked up at the violet-haired girl, the spite in her eyes practically glowing. It was my fault, as I said before I panicked and dropped the gun. but my classmates suddenly jumped me with all sorts of questions that I couldn't think of a way out of it. That's when Izuku came to my aid about the whole fake dating thing. And in an effort to quickly convince them to get them off our backs, I kissed him. HMMM. Grown to displease Nejire, it may not be the smartest move constantly reminding the girl of the crime that was committed. In hindsight, there was a better way to handle it. I went a bit, way too far. Can't we just let bygones be bygones? Live and let's forgive. Wait, what are you doing with that car? With the strength of 10 men, Nejire had lifted one of the training field's cars. Nejire, no. Steadying the huge chunk of metal over her head, the brunette heaved it over to her boyfriend's classmate step by step with a determined look of ill intent. Let's talk. Trouble could only follow when steam began bowing out of Nejire's mouth like the exhaust pipe of an old-fashioned train. Put down the car. Put down the car. Put down the car. Nejire let out the vicious battle cry of an envious maiden as she leaned back with the car, pushing the limits of her body. RAGH. Crash. BOOM. That last explosion caused enough smoke to completely block out the screen, making the boy unable to view what was going on. Are you sure they'll be okay? Izuku asked again, seeing the severity of Nejire's actions. They seem to be taking this a bit far. Still looking relatively calm but a bit shook, Tamaki replied, I'm 52% sure. 52%. It's more than half in a passing grade. A passing grade where? The UK. They like the lowest system. And somehow they were smart enough to colonize so much Sid in their prime, so they must have done something right. Ugh, I don't even. Listen, have some faith in your girlfriend like I do mine. With all our goals of being heroes, none of us have the heart to lose control and cause serious harm to the other. Fine, I'll trust her. Good. Oh, by the way, we're fighting ourselves later. WHY. You kissed my girlfriend, I can't just let that go. But you said you understood. I did. I know how nosy classmates can be. When I dated you, all our classmates would never stop probing about it. It really made the whole thing more uncomfortable, and it felt like we can never get some privacy. Is that why you two broke up? Nope. Turns out she was just into girls, stated Tamaki. His eyes looked away as if they held great pain of the memory before snapping back. Anyways, point is, you kissed Jirou. Off pure principle, I can't let you run free after kissing my girl like that without having to fight a bit. But she kissed me. I don't make the rules, I just follow them. Is there some constitution law sheet I can look up or something to see if this is necessary? They're unspoken. All I know is that if I don't do this, I'm basically declaring open season on this relationship. I think you're overreacting. No, trust me, they know. Who's they? I don't know. I don't know how, why, where, what, or even when, but they know, and they will start coming. It doesn't always go on one side. Izuku pulled out his phone and went on the calendar application. So what time do you want to fight? The greenette asked. Tamaki shrugged, replying, I mean, we don't have to schedule now. We just got to make sure it happens eventually. Planning just makes it easier. Well, I'm free now, so if we got to fight now might be the best time. Are you sure now? No. I mean, you have just introduced to this rule a minute ago. You might need some time to digest it all. Seems like we'll be here for a while for the girls to finish, so we might as well get our fight out the way as well. I mean, sit, why not? Alright, let's go. The door suddenly got kicked open as a cloud of black fogged the room. We'll reschedule this, Tamaki told Izuku before the boys turned their full attention to the entrance. From the mess, out steps Nejire panting like a berserker who went on scourged earth. She was dragging a Jirou by the collar of the punk rocker's shirt. They were both covered in black soot and Jirou's hero costume was in tatters, but miraculously they seemed physically fine. Bruised, sure, but nothing worse than what they've gotten during a harsh training session with Aizawa. Dropping her recent victim, Nejire stomped her way over straight to Izuku. Crap, she still looks pissed. I got to make sure to plan my next words carefully. What can I say? Calm down. No, that would probably make it worse. Why are you mad? I would have to be an idiot to say that now. My mother was right about you. Dear Lord, I might as well dig my own grave. Thankfully Izuku didn't need to say anything, because Nejire acted for him. The second she was close enough, the brunette did not hesitate in fully grabbing Izuku's groin, open palm and through his pants. The boy let out a high-pitched screech at having his manhood manhandled like this. She has never been this aggressively forward before. If Izuku was going to be truthful to himself, it was a slight turn-on. Now to deal with you, Nejire growled. The lioness then dragged her mate away by the groin like luggage at an airport. Izuku made the right move of not speaking. The boy only whimpered in fear. He knew what was coming next. He just didn't know at what severity. After watching the couple leave the room, Tamaki went over to his soot-covered girlfriend, picking her up in his arms. Bah, yes, I would like to listen to a mumble rap mixtape. Jirou muttered. Her eyes were spiraling squiggles. Tamaki lightly shook Jirou to gain back her sense, telling her, snap out of it, you're talking nonsense. Huh, what? Jirou states, looking around at first fearful that Nejire might still be around. Where's Nejire? She dragged Izuku off. Judging by the direction Nejire went, they're probably in a closet by now. With the coast being clear, Jirou sighed in relief before clutching herself onto Tamaki's chest. That was the worst experience in my life. I'm sure you had worse, Tamaki replied, carrying her over to the sofa in the room and sitting down. I almost peed my pants, whined Jirou, vocally on the verge of tears. The older boy opened up his chest to her, allowing Jirou to more comfortably rest against it. As he petted her head, he said, "You survived." Jirou buried her face against his chest, moaning, "I'm all beat up though. Nothing a good night's sleep can't fix. It's only the afternoon. I'll be looking like trash for the rest of the day." "You look fine. How would you know?" "Because I'm looking at you and you maintain the same beauty as always." Pink stakes appeared across Jiru's face. While flustered, she was going to forget his part in all this and pouted, saying, "Oh, now you see me. What happened when I was screaming for help for the last hour? I was working damage control. It was better long-term for Nejire to get it out now before this builds up and boils over into some generic drama plot. Don't care what you say, there was a legit possibility she wanted to kill me. That was the most livid I've ever seen Nejire." "Well, you did kiss her boyfriend." "I didn't mean to. It was an act in the heat of the moment." "Still, don't blame her for being jealous. Seeing someone else kiss your partner will bring out the envy from even the kindest of people. Even you." Jirou asked, looking up at him. "Me and Izuku are going to fight later for a reason." Jirou snorted, "Are you serious?" "Don't go that far." "Kinda have to," Tamaki mumbled. "It's a principle that can't be broken." "What?" "Nothing, was just wondering what I can do to make up for your bad day." Fidgeting her leg, Jirou looked down before muttering, "Well, I had something in mind but I'm not sure I'm in the best condition for it." Tamaki used his thumb to wipe the soot around her lips before placing a small kiss on them. When he pulled back he said, "I don't mind a soot-covered girlfriend. It'll be pretty messy but not the worst. My issue is the place, it's too public. No one is here, but someone may come back." "Like who?" "Aizawa left us with the keys and Nejire ain't going to stop seeking Izuku's brains out till he's dried up." Rumbling from not so far away could suddenly. The third year looked away, having a more bashful expression as he says, "I don't know." "Hey, I thought this was supposed to be about cheering me up," pouted Jirou, shifting her position on his lap. "I'm getting a huge sense of déjà vu from all this." "Then maybe we should get in some action before we're interrupted," insisted Jirou, tugging at his shirt. Giving in to his persistent lover's demand, Tamaki engaged in some long-awaited intimacy. Our secretive couples had experienced some discourse not long after their little agreement. It would seem that they were sloppy with communication, being vague of the details of this pretend-to-be dating clause about what was allowed and disallowed. That led to a little bit of conflict between certain members. Conflict meaning Jirou experiencing the most terror she has ever felt in her life when she accidentally stumbled on the lips of a certain greenet, and bore witness to the supposed airhead Nejire blood-lusted wrath. Some clarification of the terms and conditions was needed. But for now, everyone just needed to cool down. What better way to distress than to let their stored-up passion that they needed to keep secret explode now that they secured some privacy? In simple terms, in one of the less crowded closets, Nejire was executing the ultimate punishment to her boyfriend for allowing his lips to be defiled by another woman. Death by snoo-snoo was the initial punishment, but after a bit of begging from the poor lad, the pouty blue-haired judge reduced his sentence to divine retribution. Through SNU. With her trusty weapon, the thighs of justice, she was going to discipline her naughty boyfriend. While Izuku was nearly paralyzed in the chair he was pushed onto, he squirmed in his seat from being hit with wave after wave of blissful pleasure. Nejire was shaking her stacked ass up and down on Izuku's groin like a salt shaker, sprinkling down her erotic juices over Izuku's lap as she rode his staff. The brunette had wrapped her arms around Izuku's neck, pulling in the greenet's head to suffocate his face with her bountiful breast. "Secret technique, nirvana asphyxiation," exclaimed Nejire through a very loud moan, pressing her chest against Izuku. Her rack served as soft but effective pillows to smother the greenet's face in order to teach him a lesson. How many times did Nejire's punishment make Izuku come? More times than the poor boy could count. Izuku had already expended his uses of one for all in this position. He injected his seed into her over and over, yet it seems to never be enough for the brunette, continuously moving those hips to gruesomely trigger another dose. "Take that, and this," squeaked the third year, putting emphasis every down she came back down on Izuku's lower tower. Nejire very well could be attempting the rhetorical statement of draining a man's dry with this punishment. Even when the girl's own orgasm hit, and there were many, she didn't seem to stop. Similar to a man being too angry to die, Nejire was too hornily angry to stop. Izuku didn't know how much of his special sauce he had left in him. All he could do was clutch Nejire's squishiest cheeks, drool while the lack of oxygen hid him from being absolutely stifled by her bubs. Eventually, there was a muffled groan coming from the greenet. This time it occurred at the same time as the mod Nejire gave, and another sticky white explosion happened at their crotches. The Nejire train seemed to have finally stopped its course, or at least made a mini pit stop as the girl was heavily panting as she caught her breath. "How did that one feel?" Nejire asked, finally allowing Izuku some air from removing her breast from his face. "No, put me back," instinctively said Izuku. Blinking at him, Nejire went, "What?" Quickly clearing his throat, Izuku corrected himself. "I meant exhausting. Can we stop now? Please. My body has turned into a used juice box." "Are you sorry?" Nejire asked, glaring down at him like a hawk. "Yes, I apologized already," Izuku told her, gasping from his exhaustion. He spent the last couple of minutes begging for mercy, and while it was paradoxically enjoyable, his pelvis felt like it could snap off if he attempted to stand. Pouting at him, Nejire questioned him again. Are you truly sorry? She seemed adamant on this case. Only a few times have Izuku ever seen her this moody. She's either pouty at what's upsetting her, or jealous pouty because Izuku did something that made her worry he won't give enough attention to her. He was her boyfriend, after all, making sure the greenet maintains the pecking order of importance the girls in his life should have is required. From the bottom of my heart, wheezed Izuku, his mouth would be satisfied from the water in a cracker right now. You promise you won't let a situation go out of hand again? I wasn't even at fault, thought Izuku, but made the right choice by swallowing his pride. Never again. Wet Nejire, sporting a judging look as she determined his ruling. Okay. The blue net finally chimed, hugging the relieved boy. All is forgiven. Izuku let out a grand sigh. I still want to go one more round though, she added, straddling down for one last ride. Oh god, wheezed Izuku. He was going to need a medic after this because he was already a spent toothpaste tube and Nejire was trying to use a steamroller to squeeze out the last of his special white sauce. Back in the waiting room where a violet-haired couple was engaging in a heated fight, with their mouths, tongue wrestling to be specific, and it was as wet and slippery as Turkish oil wrestling. While usually they were both quite aggressive in their engagements, with the Tamaki advantage in leading, this time Jirou was much more aggressive in her pursuit. It was an awkward passive assault where Jirou would be melting at the touch but would still push her body forward. The entire event is best compared to Jirou constantly pushing a bowl of soup in Tamaki's face, similar to force feeding but consensual. If that makes any sense. It probably doesn't, but that didn't matter to these lovers. Enjoying herself, Jirou moaned through their kiss. While the two were embracing the other, she was being pleasured in her lower regions by the hands of her boyfriend. At first it was just heavy petting through their clothes, but it quickly evolved beyond that. This time it was initiated by Tamaki. Without warning, Sun Eater's individual fingers turned into octopus tentacles. They moved with agency, sneaking into the punk rocker's pants. A large gasp escaped Jirou as 4 tentacles all began to rub her clit. It was a sudden sneak attack that caught her completely off guard, dealing heavy damage to her stability. She was already melting from their passion-filled kiss. Now there's bone-rattling erotic stimulation to her. You JJ jerk, stammered Jirou. Her body was scrunching up from the sensation filling her body. It brought difficulty keeping up the kiss. Still shuddering, the first year was about to frown up at her boyfriend for his slimy maneuver. When did you have time to eat octopus? Do you remember during the training when I stepped out to get a sandwich? Tamaki asked, still finessing his girlfriends. Quickly Jirou's frown grew as she informed him, no. I was busy running for my life. Oh, well during that time I went out for a sandwich. With octopus in it. Takoyaki sandwiches are amazing. Ugh, don't talk about food. I don't want to be hungry and horny. I can fix both of those things, just one at a time. Which one first? Jirou asked, raising an eyebrow. The one where we don't need to get up, of course, joked Tamaki, having his tentafingers fiddle more with her privates. Food can come after. Spoke through a soft mon, the punk rocker replied, Jay just making sure. Gripping onto her boyfriend, the violet-haired girl steadied herself as she immersed in the pleasure emitting in her body. Barrages of noises escaped Jirou's lips. This was a foreign experience altogether. Experimentation wasn't new for this couple. But they were still in the phase where they did the basics of what sequely trying new things meant. With their recent schedule troubles, they were slow on the gradual climb and haven't reached the point where their creativity needed to dip into their quirks. In all honesty, Jirou expected her to be the one to start adding in more kinky stuff with her quirks. Tamaki usually worked better as an executioner of an idea once it was discussed than a planner. The boy often had trouble wanting to push forward with things due to anxiety. The first time Jirou got her big oaf to fondle with her titties, it was practically an awkward tutorial class from how shaky his hands were. Every couple of moments he would ask if she liked it and then would question her again to make sure she wasn't lying. It was humorous for her to watch. It brought a similar feeling to that friend one lent a tool to, but the friend is being extra careful to not do anything to damage it. Never in her life did Jirou think she would basically give a pep talk to the first guy to fondle her cest. Quite a jump compared to what he was doing now. Jirou was already mentally prepared for less, so this took her by surprise. Her grip tightens against her boo as the electrical sensation spreads throughout her body, all sparking from the starting point of her groin being tendered to by many length helpers. FCK, moaned Jirou, biting into Tamaki's shoulder as the excitement started becoming too much for her. She would continue to give muffled groans as Tamaki held her steady so Jirou wouldn't squirm too much to disrupt his craft. It took barely a few minutes before Jirou was climaxing. There was a high-pitched howl that came from the punk rocker's muffled mouth, and her hips spasming every few seconds as she rode that entire blissful roller coaster all the way through. When she was done, Jirou unhinged her jaws from Tamaki's shoulder before resting on it, her tongue partially sticking out with a satisfied smile on her face. Rubbing her back, Tamaki asked, "How did that one feel?" "I know it's been a while since I properly, well you know." "FC King amazing," murmured Jirou, still in the afterglow days. "Remember to try that again." "I'll keep it in mind. Guess we should go see where Izuku and Not so fast, exclaimed Jirou, pushing Tamaki further back onto the couch as she herself slid down. Looking a bit confused, Tamaki had to ask, "What are you doing?" Kneeling on the ground between his legs, Jirou gave a DCKY smirk up at him before replying, "No way am I going to leave it at that, not after you made me make all those embarrassing noises. Besides, it's been a while since I've done that to you as well." As the violet-haired girl explained, her hands crept over to her boyfriend's pants. Quickly she undid the button to pull on his pants, allowing for her earlobes to extend, reaching inside and wrap themselves around the boy's hard member. "I've been feeling the guy for the last couple of minutes. It felt like I was sitting on a metal pipe that was left out on a burning summer day," stated Jirou, her wire earlobe pulled out the boy's DCK for some fresh air. "Could you have really gone on with it like this? You shouldn't hold yourself back for my sake. I can push myself as well, and once in a while be creative." Her earphone jack wire began stroking the heated member in its grip. Pink ran across Tamaki's face as he mumbles, "I know, it's just, I don't know how to put it." "Getting comfortable," Jirou replied. "Don't worry, I know, which is why I'm going to take care of it right now. So sit back and do whatever you need to relax." With her declaration, Jirou gave a lip to the tip before taking it into her mouth. A rewarding groan came from Tamaki that his girlfriend gladly accepts as she started making her way up and down the. While she got rhythm, she coordinated her earlobe to move in tune with her mouth as they'll still be jerking off the base while she tended to the top half. "Ooh," groaned Tamaki, stammering to say, Jirou, your mouth is warm." "Shhhhhh," Jirou hummed with his DCK still in her mouth, making her voice vibrate in such a pleasing way. Using her hands, she pushed on his core to make him lean back even more so his body would be limp against the couch, momentarily popping the beef sausage out of her mouth to say, "Don't even worry about talking me up right now, just enjoy. Though, I do appreciate it." The punk rocker's face went pink as well before she continued her blowjob. Jirou still kept a hand on Tamaki's stomach. With her ear jacks took over the job of handling the member, it left her a few free appendages to wander. While her hand on Tamaki's stomach stayed there, rubbing it to help ease the guy, Jirou's other hand went under to fumble his sack. Pulling, tugging, flicking at the right moment, and some light massaging. Each brought massive enjoyment to Tamaki, who was finally leaning back in his seat, covering his eyes with one of his arms while he bathed in the pleasure. Bobbing her head, Jirou rapidly slid down the length of Tamaki's member, coating it quickly in the sparkling substance that is saliva. As it dripped from his, it worked as a lube which made it easier for Jirou's ear jacks to jerk him off easier. Gulping noises accompanied Jirou every time she went down, gagging from the length stuffing her mouth. From how quickly she was moving, Jirou practically speedrun the entire process. It didn't take long at all before she started to have a peculiar taste be reintroduced to her taste buds. "I gotta remind Tamaki to eat more fruit, especially on date night," Jirou thought to herself, knowing it was best not to mention it now of all times unless she wanted her boo to die of a heart attack. Not that it bothered her anyways, in this position the luxury side of the coin wasn't supposed to go to her anyways. Just another moment of the never cycle of the relatively equivalent exchange in relationships. You can only get out as much as you put in, and sometimes at certain moments, you gotta take the shorter stick for a while. In this case, it was Jirou taking a sudden blast of gooey white sperm in her mouth. Wrapped up in her own mind, Jirou didn't even hear the single warning Tamaki gave her of what was coming. It occurred so abruptly to her the poor girl gagged as she almost choked on her boyfriend's cum. Jirou immediately jerks her head away, cover her mouth. Tamaki's orgasm wasn't done yet, so his now free to the world DCK shot out the last few strands that mostly freely fell to the ground, but a few did splat on Jirou's face. Quickly recovering from his 7 seconds in heaven, Tamaki sat up to attend to Jirou, saying, "Hey, are you okay? Sorry about that, I tried to warn you so you wouldn't choke." Jirou shook her head, assuring she was fine. "My fault for not paying attention, forgot how bountiful your shots could be," stated Jirou, trying her best to swallow what was in her mouth. When she finally opened up wide to gasp for air, most of it was gone, but there on her tongue remained a slimy layer of sticky cum. Blah, for better or worst. Calming down, Tamaki awkwardly goes, "Oh, I see. Really gotta start feeding you pineapples." "What? Nothing." Chimed. Jirou rubbed her neck to seem innocent. "Let's see if Izuku is still alive." That was when the doors were kicked open again and in walked Nejire. Dropping to the side of her was Izuku, who looked like he had the soul sucked out of him. The violet-haired couple had no idea if it was literal or not. The moment of silence that followed was tense as Jirou felt ready to start running again. Luckily, it would seem that it was unnecessary. A familiar warmth came back to the room when Nejire cheerfully said, "All is forgiven now. Right, Izu?" Nothing but a long wheeze came from Izuku's husk of a body. Nejire looked down at the side of the room and noticed the white stains on the floor and Jirou's face, quickly putting it together. "Oh, you couldn't swallow it all?" Nejire asked, uncharacteristically in a condescending tone. She lifted her head up high before looking down at Jirou before she grumbled, "Pathetic." After cleaning up their messes, the group quickly made a stop to their local restaurant for a bite to eat. They were, how one would say, drained and needed something to fill the tank, so they walked over. Except for Izuku, he needed to be carried over by Tamaki because he couldn't move his legs, or anything from his hips and below. Thankfully, not a lot of people were at this restaurant and the staff weren't very attentive to them, so they had plenty of time to work out the conditions. They were simple. The entire thing was mostly being constructed to prevent Nejire from attempt cold-blooded murder again, so the rules was fairly set around that concept. Nejire went hard on a no-kissing rule no matter the circumstance, but thankfully the combined effort of everyone got her to realize how impossible that'll be to pull off considering how deep they are. It'll be too off if none of their classmates ever see the two fake couple kisses after that display they did. It won't be often or as excessive, but they need to be doing slightly small stuff to keep the act believable and unquestionable. Instead, Jirou will have a fake kissing punch card that'll allow her a certain amount of kisses to use a week. Each time she and Izuku do a fake kiss for whatever reason, they'll have to mark off one of the freebies, and then at the end of the week turn it in for review. Nejire stated she'll have eyes everywhere, so they shouldn't try to think they can sneak in an extra one or else hell will rain down on them. There was no objection to this. Everything else was rather simple, like watching where their hands go unless they wanted to lose the privilege of having them. Reminder that this was supposed to be a veil to avoid suspicion. They don't have to go all in on the acting, unless they were completely out of options. Which was code for if Jirou pulls the same sit she did in that classroom, Nejire was going to start blasting on sight. That should cover everything, Tamaki announced, sighing a huge breath of relief that it was finally over. Weakly lifting his arm into the air, Izuku cheered, "Yay." There was another silence as the boys waited for the two girls to finally do their sign of unity. While Izuku and Tamaki will have their battle dated and decided, it's the girls they were both worried about. Thankfully, it would seem Nejire and Jirou will have some peace for each other as they converge on a hug. Nejire happily initiated. "Oh, you, come on, let's stop being silly," Nejire stated, pulling her in. It was awkward, mostly for Jirou, but the assuring aspect was what was truly comforting. The punk rocker made sure to extend that olive branch as far as it could go because Lord knew she needed it to stay up. "I appreciate your understanding and sorry I panicked," stated Jirou. Nejire kindly responded with, "Choke on a DCK petite homewrecker." The two stayed in that position for a while before breaking away and continuing on with the day. What was that saying? Forgive but don't always forget.